morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the rest of you. We are back for another episode of Bitcoin Magazine Live. It is I, your host, Q, coming to you yet again from my mother's basement. And I'm joined by my co-host, P. How's it going, P?
It's going fantastic. As always, the fiat zombies are behind me, reaching for me, clawing at me. Got to keep my mind sharp. Excited for the conversation today.
We're going to keep the fiat zombies at bay as best we can today. We've got a jam-packed episode. We'll be kicking things off in just a moment with Lamar Wilson and Specific Mills, who are joining us to recap their conversation with Bitcoin 22 and talk to us about what they're seeing around their communities. And then we're going to kick things off in the second hour with Tom Luongo and a new episode of Fed Watch hosted by Ansel. And I believe CK will be joining us, but if not, I'll just hijack it from him. You know the drill. Bitcoin Magazine Live. What is up, Lamar? What is up, Mills?
What is going on? How y'all doing out there, man?
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, always.
We got to shout out really quickly, Mills. The Pepe's in the background, created by none other than, I believe his Twitter handle is Young Gucci T. Be sure to give Young Gucci T a follow on Twitter. One of the greatest Bitcoin artists out there. He's got some new prints coming out too, so you're not going to want to miss those. But needed to selfishly plug him there.
Yeah, he's doing like a Pepe a day keeps the doctor away, I think, philosophy currently. And so he set this up for me. I also have a classic, Bitcoin B, just to keep it balanced here.
You got to have balance.
I love that's so well hidden with the way you've like framed your head. Not what I was expecting to pop out behind Mills's head, but okay. Thank you for that image.
Yeah, I just want to say, to me, that background just screams balance, like well-adjusted, balanced lifestyle.
Someone who is perfectly sane and not in need of some friends, beer, or just anything. Moving on, though, I wanted to have the two of you who had the opportunity to sit down together during Bitcoin 22, we share just what the experience was like being in Miami just now over a month ago, and what the experience was like being on stage, what you guys talked about.
Man, it was crazy. Oh, ladies first. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Miss.
Wow. No. It was a treat because it was kind of like the biggest meetup. It wasn't kind of. It was absolutely just the biggest Bitcoin meetup that has ever existed to date. So the energy was amazing. And just getting to meet so many people and see friends, it felt like a high school of running into people in the hallway of like, oh, what's up? How you doing? Just great vibes. Got to have so many good conversations. Loved getting to talk about community with Lamar, Brian, Justin, Kyle, and the different aspects of community building. And Lamar is really the OG as far as building the virtual community, both with Clubhouse and Facebook. Just as for Bitcoin specific conversations, has built a network that it's cool for me to see online community translate to offline and in person. And I got to meet quite a few of his squad afterwards, and it was really cool. I really love your peeps. Someone came up and gave me the earrings out of her ears. She had these like really cool Bitcoin B earrings, and I complimented them, and she said, "You need them." And she just right then and there took them out. I took my current earrings out and I put them in and wore them the rest of the day.
That doesn't sound sanitary.
Yeah, it doesn't, but it also sounds very community driven. So I love it.
Thank you, Lamar, for understanding.
No, listen.
That's gross as shit, Mills.
Yes, it's pretty tough.
I hope the hepatitis was worth it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Guys, a month later, I'm still good. So we're fine.
She's good. She's all good. So listen, let's not get any rumors started. Last year, they tried to act like that the Bitcoin conference started the entire COVID epidemic. And I guess this year it's going to start the hepatitis epidemic. So we don't get anything like that. Any of them started. No, it was awesome, man. The event keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's nuts, man. It's like really, really wild to see how big it can get. It also shows you a lot about Like as far as the demand that we always say is coming, I think that demand is going to come from the grassroots. I think from these communities that we continue to build, as many people as we've been able to even onboard into their first Bitcoin through social audio apps, and then Mills probably meets new people all the time that get people into Bitcoin, that finally get them to understand it. Because that's what we all try. That's what these communities are about. It's about trying to get people to understand Bitcoin. It's not about community the way these NFT cats be talking about. Oh, you got to have a great community and a great. No, it's not about that. It's about trying to get people to understand Bitcoin for themselves and make their own decisions, but really just to build that community around it, because you want to be around like-minded individuals so they can keep on, trying to iron sharpens iron. So yeah, I really loved it. I definitely enjoyed our panel, meeting all those people in person. Our panel was gangster. It was really gangster. If you haven't watched it, make sure you go watch that panel. There were some hecklers in the crowd, and I wish they would have Will Smith, because I'm not Chris Rock. But let's just be real about the situation. But outside of that, man, like I loved it, man. I loved everything about it. It was a lot of fun. I can't wait till the next one. Like real talk, I can't wait till the next one.
I absolutely love it. And just as a very gentle reminder to all of you watching, if you were not in attendance last year, but you wish you were, tickets for Bitcoin 23 are on sale right now. They will never be this cheap again. Ticket prices will be going up in just 2 days. So be sure to lock in your tickets now. All the announcements, when it will be, where it will be, everything else in between, like what color P's hat will be on the next drop. All of that will be announced next month. So be sure to lock in your tickets now.
Not only are these tickets going up in fiat terms, but because of inflation, the price is actually like magnified. Like, I mean, my math says like 1,000,000%. So, you're getting doubly fucked if you're waiting.
And can I say this just for the record? P, I am loving the mustache soul patch combination. I'm gonna start calling you Stephon Ladouf. Stephon Ladouf. You should speak just like that, like very hard French accent.
100%. I'm in. I earlier in a call, I had a what I call the evil magician, which is the one where it goes like all the way down, a little bit too much. So I turned it into this, which is just like half douchebag. It's kind of looking.
No, not at all. There's no douchiness to it, man. I really think like you could be in the Princess Bride. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of feel.
I try.
But most people, y'all too young. Y'all don't even know what I'm talking about. Like,
oh man, how dare you?
Yeah, they like.
I'm definitely the oldest person.
Y'all gonna have to Google the Princess Bride to even know what I'm talking about.
I have seen the Princess Bride. Let the record show. I have seen it multiple times.
Probably why you were getting breastfed. You was like looking at the corner of your eye. You know what I'm saying?
Marriage. Also, inconceivable. Anytime anyone says inconceivable, I can't unthink. Yes. Inconceivable.
You have seen it. But it's man, I love the whole Bitcoin BTC media crew. My question is to y'all, man, like what have y'all seen from this? Listen, I ain't supposed to be asking questions, but I'm going to. What have you guys seen as far as communities growing? Have you seen more meetups popping up on the scene? You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. Across the nation after coming together as such a mecca. It's almost like a mecca of Bitcoin. Like, have y'all seen?
I'm gonna take this first, if I may, because I know that Mills and P, I'm gonna dox both of you, are in the same city. If that's okay to have announced it.
I'm in the warehouse. We know where our warehouse is, but thank you for your respect.
Do we though? Because I don't. Anyways, though, I will say this: like, I live in Los Angeles, massive city. In all honesty, like the meetup scene, it's so like siloed off here, where you have like some people who meet up on the west side of LA, you have some people who meet up in West Hollywood, you have people who are doing meetups in downtown at OC. It's very spread out. And very recently, shout out Ulrich and shout out Casey Carrillo, who dragged me out of my mom's basement to come join them for a meetup being hosted like not too far from where I am in LA. And like you could actually hear it in the conversation with people where they were like, yo, like there's no Bitcoin meetups for like this area. Can we just start doing this regularly, guys? And like people wanted and have that appetite. And I think it's a little bit to do with the conference and the excitement of it and seeing everyone, because look, when the price is down, you have every reason to be sad. You have every reason to be pissed. You have every reason to just sort of like back away and say like, fuck it. Like that's what a majority of the people do. But those who are convicted are looking for new ways, I think, to get further entrenched in Bitcoin. And as a result, like I personally feel like I'm seeing like more liveliness out of the meetup community, at least here.
I'm gonna kind of
Mills.
probably misquote it a little bit, but Matt Odell tweeted on Thursday, had such a great time chilling with a couple hundred Bitcoiners, didn't realize that the price was down until the next day. You know, like we had such a good meetup last Wednesday. It was mining focused, and it was just, it feels like a reunion each time. And we're monthly currently in Nashville, but it is when the price is down, when the price is up. You know, when the price is down, it's the real ones, and it's kind of, hey, it's support, but it's the people that have been there regardless, and aren't fair weather fans, if you will.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
when
no, I was
just gonna say that's when the old dogs come out, man. It's when all the pirates, the scurvy guys, they've been through all the storms, they come out with like the one leg and the patch on the eye, and they're like, keep on going.
Hey, I've had scurvy. I'm not a pirate, but I've had scurvy before.
Really? Dang, well,
I really have.
No, eat some
So you
vitamin
got
C. Like, what is
hepatitis,
wrong with you?
scurvy. Like, what are we doing here, Mills? Are you just like a petri dish over there? Like, what is going on? Go ahead, though. Go ahead, P.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. I mean, we talk about this a lot, but like, the bull markets are super fun because everybody gets super excited, but like the sideways markets are where, and the bear markets are where like the work actually gets done. And I was there as well, and it was phenomenal. It was the space is really, really cool in Nashville. It's sort of this like horseshoe setup where like you feel like you're like 5 feet away from the people that are speaking. It's also like none of it is recorded, so it has this like real sense of like it's this like ephemeral conversation. People were swearing at each other. They pulled out knives. They were like, "Oh shit!" There were like trade secrets revealed. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy.
I need to come.
7 out of 5 stars.
I'm not that far from you, man. Y'all need to tell me when it happens. I will definitely make a trip. That's nothing.
You done fucked up by not being there, man.
Dang. Man, I can't wait to come to the next one.
All right. Well, Lamar and I look like we're gonna come to the next Nashville meetup. So Mills, plan accordingly if you
Invite
can.
is always open. I may or may not be speaking actually at the next meetup. So maybe not. But regardless, invite's always open. Second Wednesday of every month.
And just in case,
and we're Nash Bitcoiners on Twitter, and that links to our meetup page as well.
And just in case people don't know, I don't know if you said this, Q, but Mills is one ventricle of the beating heart. No, there's 4 ventricles in a heart. Fuck. Like one half of the beating heart.
The whole heart.
The Nashville Bitcoin scene. Her and Rod have done a fucking amazing job of really rallying everybody. It's amazing.
Thank you. It's been fun to watch us graduate.
That was one of the things you brought up on our panel. You were talking about us having, like, being able to be more intimate, but it seems like I had a couple hundred people. Like, how intimate can you get with a couple of hundred people? Like, did that feel intimate still, or was it more like, this is more of an event? It's almost like a mini conference. Like, how did that feel?
To be honest, it felt like a mini conference because there were 3 segments of programming. And it's not that, I mean, I love having an educational based meetup. I just also know that everyone has a certain capacity to soak up super dense, somewhat technical information. And it was kind of like there were 2 meetups. There was the outdoor, having a White Claw, having a beer, hanging out on the patio. And then there was, the sessions inside, which I think anyone could say even about Bitcoin 2022. Like the talks are a part of the conference, but also the ancillary, the social dynamic, that's a part of the conference as well. And that's where you get the intimacy. I think it's hard. Yeah. When you get numbers like this, when we get a crowd like that, it's hard to have face-to-face time with everyone. There were people there that I'm sure I didn't see their face, just because once you scale it, you lose that. And I think one of the things we talked about on the panel was what's made possible by something and what's made impossible by something. And by having a larger number, there is a different energy, and there's a different amount of, being able to introduce people to, we had so many people from out of town come, which is incredible. But also there's a lot of locals that they're getting to meet people because people are coming to town, coming to Nashville. They're getting to meet people that they wouldn't normally, cross paths with on the day-to-day. So that's a win. But yeah, you can't talk with everyone that you want to talk with. You can't have the length and depth of conversation maybe that you would. So it encourages people, I think, to stay a couple days. So don't book just a one day. Like, we usually hang out a little bit the day before. We usually hang out the day after. We actually legitimately just like being together and talking. And we don't always only talk about Bitcoin, but we can't help ourselves sometimes.
That's cool. So I guess my question is, do you think that in the future you're going to try to build more of an online community as well to kind of feed those types of communities? Because that's the reason why I'm saying it, is because when we left, that panel, I said we having a party, going back to a party, and that party was gangster. It was very nice.
I wasn't invited.
Thanks for the invite, Lamar.
It was a paid party, so I don't think that would have, everybody didn't walk the bridge. But
party don't start until I show up. Everyone knows that.
Hey,
come on.
Shout out to Rizzo. Shout out to Mandrick for coming through with the baklava. Shout out to, because here's the reason why I'm shouting those people out is because a lot of people just think because we're Black Bitcoin billionaires, there's only Black people, but there was a whole group of individuals. It was Hispanic people, or Latino people there. It was definitely Black people there. It was some white people there, right? It was like all types of people there, like gay, straight, like, and I think that's what I like. Like when we get in person like that, like, and you get to talk to people in their face and see who they are, I think that actually does take that social level, that online part to the next level. But we wouldn't even been there if it wasn't for the online part. So it's like, I think they all work together, right? I think the online part kind of gets people ready and revved up. And then it's like, you get to meet in person. It's like, that's who you are. Man, this baklava is good. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that kind of thing. So also I was going to ask you, do you think you'll build like more of an online community as well, just so you can kind of feed into these types of, groups that you have?
I would say probably not. I mean, our Twitter has more followers than our meetup group has members. But also what I'm seeing happen, and has just kind of naturally like happened overnight, is more meetups, more casual hangs. Where Bitcoin Magazine is hosting a pretty chill, informal weekly happy hour at different local places in Nashville. It's not, there's no programming. It's just, hey, we can't wait a whole month to see each other. So let's do this more often. And I'm watching more in-person spin-off meetups, and it's not competition. We're all just so excited to grow the community. More people are moving here, but also the people that have already lived here are discovering us, and our network of Nashvillians is also growing. So as far as growing an online presence, I'm not investing any time in that. But supporting all of the spin-offs, I'm trying to go to as many as I can. But I mean, I went to 4 nights last week in a row of different Bitcoiner social activities, which is amazing. And I feel so popular and so loved. but also, like, I don't know if I can, this can't be we can't hang out every day. I have other non-Bitcoiner friends that I have to, still convert. I still have to orange pill some normies, that I love.
So you don't like the echo chamber style. You like a missionary or something. Like you trying to go where Bitcoin has never gone before. That's what you trying to do. I got you. So my bad, Q. I'm asking all these questions, man. I'm just in a good mood, man.
Don't you dare say my bad. This is always about having a conversation. That's what all of this is. I want to present a question back to the two of you. You guys have both become very integral parts of community within Bitcoin. And I'm curious, we're in this very interesting point in Bitcoin history. And it's not a point in Bitcoin history where we're not familiar with. And I say that because of last week's incidents with Luna and Terra. And you're starting to see some Bitcoiners kind of welcome in people who made mistakes, people who were shitcoining, people who went down the wrong path, went to the dark side, whatever analogy you want to say. How do we in your opinion, obviously, help these people to see the light and welcome them into Bitcoin without them feeling like judged against, without them feeling attacked for making these mistakes? I think there's that fine line where we can either convert a lot of people to like see, hey, you were kind of right, but then you went down the wrong path, you veered off track a little bit. Bitcoin is the right track, and here's why, versus like making them feel so much animosity. Like, dude, I lost so much money trading that Doge shit, and like, dude, fuck crypto. Like, nah, it's all scam. How do we avoid that?
The first thing I think, man, is that a lot of these cats out here, and y'all know one of my favorite terms is yellow belt maxi, right? But it's not from a standpoint of me trying to be like facetious. It's really about saying you don't know enough to really speak to people. And so because you don't know enough, the only thing you know to do is to continue to keep kicking them. Because that's all you know. Like, you don't know, you haven't learned enough. And so what I always say is that the first step to bringing people in who are outside, make sure you start educating yourself so you can show them why. Because that's going to get people more than like just cussing them out and telling them have fun staying poor. Like, show them why messing around with a freaking stable coin that is tied to Bitcoin and dollars is probably not going to be stable. And what the heck were you thinking in the first place, right? But show them why, right? Like, explain to them why that doesn't work, or show them why Ethereum sucks. Don't just say Ethereum sucks. If you can explain to them why Ethereum sucks, I've seen that has actually done a lot, because a lot of people come in from a marketing perspective. Like, they just get marketed to. And so you have all these talking points. You got this whole room of people saying the same exact thing, and it becomes like this. It just becomes a marketing ploy. And so they buy into the marketing part of it, and there's not enough information about why these things suck. So then they wind up buying into it, lose money, and then when they come to you, you just like, you stupid. Why did you listen to that marketing? And it's like, all of us has bought crap before. All of us has bought things that we had no business buying because we didn't have enough information. Because somebody sold us a shirt that, you know, was tie-dyed a certain way, and then when we washed it, it was gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've all run into that. So instead of like have some humility about it, and understand that you've been there before too, but then also have the information to share with them why. Because I think the why part is like, this is the time to do it. Like P said it, this is the time to build, but this is also the time to educate yourself. Like, get off the freaking hype train, get off the moon train, and go pick up some freaking books and get in some rooms with people like P. Try to get in some rooms with people like JC, D++, even myself sometimes, and learn, so that when new people come in, you can tell them why. And I think that'll help orange pill them a lot better than like cussing them out, real tough.
Yeah, I would say, and this is going to maybe sound redundant, but remembering that people are human and we've all made mistakes. And it's also okay. And I think you made a good delineation, Q, between judging people and also, yeah, Lamar, like, there's education, but education, if someone hasn't had their mind kind of opened or they haven't shifted, giving them facts are probably just going to roll off. They're probably not in the place where they're looking for the why. So I think more than anything, it's asking questions. And it's, when I'm talking to someone that doesn't understand Bitcoin, I'm always going to try and figure out what motivates them. What do they care about? Do they care about freedom? Great. Do they care about human rights? Like, there are so many on-ramps to Bitcoin that it requires you understanding who this person is and what they value. And I'm going to make a sweeping blanket statement here, but a lot of people that have fallen for a shitcoin scam, they are probably valuing and prioritizing money, and whether that's, you know, fast money, or they're in a bad place financially. And so it's not necessarily that they're looking for a get rich quick, they're just looking for a way to turn a high investment, right? And so I think there's a place to have mercy on what was someone's motivation and why did they buy Doge? Why did they, you know? And I think once you ask a question and can hear that answer, I think that's a great on-ramp to then say, all right, well, let's talk about it. But if someone doesn't want to talk about it, it's really hard to have a conversation. with someone about something that they are not open to hearing your point of view. And I think one of my favorite things about the Bitcoin community and why I would hang out with Bitcoiners 4 nights in a row is it's okay to disagree within Bitcoin. You don't have to believe every single thing the same, because there's a through line that you do agree on. And that is kind of the true north. And that's where there's this protective nature that I think a lot of Bitcoiners, I describe myself as a too toxic maxi often, because I do want to keep the conversation. I want to know that I'm with like-minded individuals that are valuing, that have the same, priority. And if someone's only prioritizing money, typically in my experience, that's kind of where the altcoin argument and the different deviations come into play.
Yeah, you're right. That's very true. I just think that people who don't want to hear it, they're not gonna come anyway, right? So when they come, it's almost like the teacher will appear when the student is ready, that kind of thing. I think that's what always winds up happening, because most people, they don't even know they want to know about Bitcoin until they start talking to somebody about Bitcoin. Like, real talk, like if you bring it up, like, hey, you heard of Bitcoin? Oh yeah, I heard of that thing. It's a scam, ain't it? And it's like, and from that point, you can start talking to them. But no, I think you're right. I think we're gonna, these types of cycles right now, like what's going on. I think one of the hardest things to hold yourself back from is "I told you so." Right? I think it's like I want to say it to you so bad, because you sat here and cussed me out, chased me around the internet, made rooms about me on Clubhouse, and now I just want to say I told you so bad. You was calling me such a maximalist, but it's, you just gotta hold it back and say, look, everybody runs through this, and what I call it is paying tuition. Just look at it as you pay tuition, and it's only tuition if you learn from it. If you went to school and realized that what you just got into was bad, then it's tuition. Otherwise, you just dumped all your money down the drain in the casino. So to see the two sides, either you learn from it or you didn't. And I think that's what we're dealing with right now. And who's to say? Like, we don't know where the markets are going. They could go down even further. And the question is, like, some of the people who got in 2017, will they be some of the people that, oh my gosh, I'm below where I was. I done been in so long. Like I said, I'm missing a leg. I got a patch on my eye and a parrot on my shoulder. Like, I just been around through a bunch of storms, right? But what happens when if the market? I mean, the macro situation in the markets right now is really driving a lot of this. And who's to say that we don't have a downturn period? And I don't even think Bitcoin has been through a real recession, right? I don't think as long as Bitcoin's been around, has Bitcoin ever dealt with the recession? You know what I'm saying? Like, what happens, right? What happens if we deal with a recession? What does Bitcoin do in that environment, right?
Lamar, define for us just what you mean by a Bitcoin recession there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Bitcoin has ever gone through a time when the world has been in a recession, right? And so Bitcoin hasn't had to deal with that. We've had incredible growth. Think about it. 2008, the Bitcoin response, 2008, 2009, was because of what was going on, right? And so from that point, we've had incredible growth in the world as a whole. And so now we have, like, what could potentially become a recession, and we've never seen how people react with Bitcoin during a recession. And so I think we're gonna have we keep we keep forging new hodlers every one of these cycles. Like, this is the fire that forges hodlers. I promise you. This is the people who wind up holding because they actually understand it always comes from situations like this. They usually get out of some crazy bad ICO, or right now bad NFTs, or whatever they in, whatever crap they in. They move into Bitcoin and they're like, I finally realized which one is the truth, and now I'm the hodler. And the last cycle brought about a bunch of hodlers that are a little bit different minded. They tend to fight people on Twitter. This cycle might bring somebody else around, but I think these are the times that actually forge the hodlers. And I think if we actually have a global recession, which we're seeing, look, did you see what's going on with the food supply and all of that? Like, we haven't dealt with that kind of stuff with Bitcoin yet. Like Bitcoin has made it through a lot, right? We know it's come through a lot. And I think it's going to keep going through a lot because it's like at the end of the day, TikTok next block. Like I don't think that's going to change anything, right? The nature of what Bitcoin is going to be the nature of what Bitcoin is, and that's why I love it. I just think that the sentiment around it could change just based on what's going on in the macro environment. We're going to see how many people who say they're hodlers, how much they're willing to hodl. You know what I mean? So I think this is just a weird environment, and that's why community matters. Right? Nothing's better than having community. When there's a crazy storm, right? Who comes together after all the houses are down? The community come together and start picking it back up together. Like that's why community is powerful. That's why having a common unity, having a like thought, right, is powerful. And I think these are the times that the community is very important. So
I also think, I mean, too, exactly what you're saying, there will be some separating wheat and chaff. I think there are people that maybe they call themselves Bitcoiners, maybe they don't, but there are people that trade Bitcoin, that view Bitcoin as maybe not the full picture of what Bitcoin is or could be. And I think that will be really interesting to see, especially how that shakes out. I mean, more people will probably join, but I also think we could lose some people that, maybe they weren't real followers. And, it's not a cult. It just, all the cult language just kind of, it works so well. It's so natural. But I think it'll be very interesting to see. And I think, I'm not saying I want the global economy to collapse, and there's a lot of suffering that will happen. And I think from COVID and supply chain to now, even with food supply, it begs a question of what's going on under the surface. And maybe I'm just an eternal optimist, and I know that I am very full of hope that in some ways this is a stage for Bitcoin to help a lot of people. And I don't know what's going to happen with the price. I don't really look at the price of Bitcoin, if I'm being honest. Sometimes I see it every once in a while, or I hear it, someone says it, but it's not the defining, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. And that's and there's going to be 21 million ever. And if I'm not living, the price is up and the price is down, and that's affecting how I'm viewing my bank account or my life or anything, I'm being dependent on Bitcoin rather than being freed by Bitcoin.
You are, but like, if we want to really break that down, like we have a current reliance on the systems in place, and what we are inevitably going to do for a vast majority of people, in my opinion at least, is we're just simply going to move that reliance from one entity over to another, because the vast majority of people, again, just in my opinion, are not going to be able to interact, or at least not have the knowledge enough or care enough, or whatever the reason is, to really understand Bitcoin in the same way that most people don't really understand money, credit markets, etc., the economy in general. So I'm curious both of your thoughts on just this idea that we need to get everyone to really understand and appreciate Bitcoin versus we just need to onboard and have everyone use it, but not necessarily understand it.
I think the problem with just onboarding people and getting them to use it is that as fast as you onboard them, they'll get off. Like, I think that's really what it boils down to. I think, Mills over here dropping all of this biblical stuff. I think through all that getting, you got to get an understanding. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that's the part of us as the grassroots community folks to kind of get people to understand it. Like, listen, I don't care what you do. Let me just make sure I say that plain. Go buy what you want to buy. I am a freedom person, right? Like, I don't give a crap what you do with your money. Like I always tell people, your wife ain't my wife. So I don't know what'll happen if Bitcoin drops crazy and y'all have an argument in your household, right? That's not my business. All I want to do is just give you enough information to make your own decision, and then we all go our separate ways. And I think that is when you come to when it's about getting to understand, it's something that you have to seek in the first place. And hopefully you're around the right people, or people who actually know what they're talking about, and you can discern good information from misinformation in this environment. And I think the great thing is that this type of stuff, like these types of markets, this type of situations, the Terra Lunas, they're making people question a lot. That's really, this is the trial by fire. Like, matter of fact, I was talking to a guy today, and I was just trying to explain it to him. It was a politician. He's running for office. And he was like, man, I want to know how is Bitcoin going to help people, right? And he said, the way he looks at regulation, after I talked to him, he was like, the way he looks at regulation is like Bitcoin's like gold and everything else is false gold, like fake gold. And he said the regulation should be, we should be able to test things against Bitcoin, which we know that's not going to change. And if everything else can't be tested in the same way Bitcoin is, from a decentralization standpoint, from the standpoint of being censorshipless, from it not being a security, then those things need to go away. That's what he said. And I was just thinking in my mind, well, you basically saying everything needs to go away. Like, you know what I'm saying? But it was his understanding. He just came to that understanding today. And I think that's what happens. Like, as you start to talk to people, they start to understand it. And I truthfully think that is far more important than just onboarding anybody, because a lot of people are onboarded through Sheep and Doge and all these other things. And then you hear these rooms and people try to tell people, listen, it's just a storm. Sheep will come back. Like, they talking like we're talking without the foundational basis, right?
So do you disagree that everything should just go away and all we're left is Bitcoin? You don't?
Yeah,
you don't think?
for me, it's not. I don't give a crap about it going away. That's what I just said. I don't give a crap. Like, it could be here all day. The thing I enjoy is that I get to choose which one I want to use, and that's it. And it's Bitcoin. Everybody looks at me as being like a maximalist, right? So it's like, for me, I can't say I'm like the maximalist. Like, you need to get. I don't give a crap what you do. That's all I'm saying. It's about my freedom. I'm going to choose what I do for my life. You do what you're doing over there. I don't give a crap. You can go buy a whole box full of rabbit poop. It doesn't bother. It doesn't mean anything to me.
So what about the people that aren't educated and that don't know, and they're putting a lot of their money and maybe their life savings, and they're putting themselves in a bad financial place? You don't care that they're losing their money? And
no, I don't. Because you know what I don't like? I hate laws that try to protect me from me, because I have a different perspective on it. And why is that? Because in this same country, like, somebody like me who didn't have a whole lot of money couldn't invest in Amazon when it first came out, right? Even though I have literally a box full of stuff about Amazon, because I was such a fanboy of what was going on in it. But I couldn't get into the IPO.
But how is Bitcoin prohibitive? You can buy $5. You can buy
I'm not saying
any
Bitcoin
amount.
No, but I'm not saying Bitcoin either.
So then why do we need shit coins?
We don't need them. I didn't say we need them. I said that it doesn't matter. What's the word? What's the word? I'm indifferent.
Different.
I can care less. Build what you want to build. There's all kinds of stuff in the supermarket. I'm not the kind of person to say you have to buy this kind of food because this is healthy for you. Like, I'm only going to put apples on the shelf and not Cheetos. It's like, nah, Cheetos and apples can both be on the shelf. I'm going to just buy my family apples. If you want to buy Cheetos, it doesn't matter to me. I'm a capitalist. I'm a freedom guy. Sell what you want to sell. People can buy what they want to buy. If you lose your money, because what I really believe, you should have the right to lose as much money as you have the right to gain it. That's how I feel. Most people don't even have ability in certain situations to even lose their money. Like, they literally advertise in communities like where I come from. They literally advertise the lottery, right? Literally advertise the lottery, but those same people couldn't at a time invest in businesses that was right down the street. That's some bull crap. And it's like, oh, but we're protecting you. We don't want you to lose your money in these businesses. So I don't fall for the okie doke. It's like, let everybody have access to whatever they want to have access to.
Your argument is valid, Lamar, because like I use the same argument when I talk about like I still can't invest in private rounds of businesses, even though like I arrogantly think I'm business savvy enough to understand the risks and calculate it accordingly. And yet at the same time, they're legalizing online sports betting because the risk reward ratio and understanding of that is easier to understand than just investing in private markets for my protection. I call that complete and utter bullshit. And I agree with you in that context. However, where I think I'm differing with you, Lamar, is on 2 points here. The first is well, yes, I agree. Like I like to eat a whole foods diet when I go to the grocery store. I don't shop in the middle of the aisles, but it's not on me to tell whoever's shopping in there, like, yo, that shit's actually fucking nasty for you. You're going to give yourself whatever disease, sickness, and vice versa though. I shouldn't be told, hey man, like all that healthy stuff like tastes like shit. Like we're gonna stop selling as much healthy food because it's too risky for me who doesn't want to get or doesn't want to see all these healthy options. And that's where this issue is right now, where we may all be on the same page that, dude, it's a free fucking world. Do whatever you want to do and respect that I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And it's not going to harm each other. But it is harming each other in the sense of Bitcoin and altcoins because we keep getting clumped up into this mess. And you have legislators who don't know what the fuck they're doing, even how to tie their own shoes, let alone how to pass a law. And now we want to introduce blockchain technology and make sure they understand the difference between the nuanced difference between Bitcoin and crypto at large.
But that's why. But that's what I'm saying though, Q. Like today, he learned from me, and that's what he came to, that we need to have two separate things: burn up all the other stuff, and only Bitcoin exists. Which is what I'm saying. But if you ask me, like, I could care less about the other stuff because other stuff's gonna pop up. It might not be altcoins. Next time it'll be scratch-off tickets. It'll be daisy chains. It'll be stuff that ain't got nothing to do with anything. My whole thing is that keep educating people on Bitcoin. If you can't tell why the difference between the two, then you're gonna mess around and have people just saying to you, because I do this all day. I sit in these in the room all morning. They call themselves DGNs, and they call me the uncle that's always yelling at them about stuff. But I'm like, the thing is that I'm not really, they know it. It's all in love because I'm like, you have to use your head. Like the stuff you over here betting on, yeah, you know it's a casino, but why would I even sit here and be like, oh yeah, it's great for you to go keep playing craps every day with your bill money? That's stupid. So think about it. Las Vegas exists already. So my whole thing is like, if everything burns up, great, that's fine. But my whole point is I'm not the kind of person that's like, it has to burn up for Bitcoin to exist. I feel like the stuff's going to burn up. I feel like the storm's going to come and knock a bunch of this stuff out, and that Bitcoin's going to exist because of what Bitcoin is. I don't need extra help from I don't need regulation, because here's the problem. You start taking you pull the thread of freedom, and the next thing you know, you lose all your freedoms. That's what I'm saying. I'm
not trying to say we have legislation, and I absolutely agree. Education is the key here. But I'm going to use your supermarket analogy, and I'm going to take some liberties with it, and we're going to go on a wild ride. So the outside of a grocery store is usually refrigerated. It's where the power is, and that's where the whole food, the produce, the dairy, the meat. Inside, shelf-stable food. So imagine we have a GMO, shelf-stable, fresh food lookalike. So we've got some, it's steak. But it's on the middle of the shelf. Well, why is it here? If you don't know that steak needs to be refrigerated to stay fresh, you might just buy that steak and think that you're buying real, proper food if you don't have the education and you don't understand the difference. And I'm not trying to say that people don't know that steak needs to be refrigerated, but in this instance, there are so many people, what Q's saying, they don't understand that Bitcoin is not the same as all of these other altcoins, shitcoins, alternatives. And so without education, we're letting the shelves kind of rob people. So I mean, I don't know if this landed or if I really lost everybody.
No, I got it. No. Listen, I got you, but I'm gonna ask you this one simple question: why is it not? See, I think every time we take the personal responsibility away from people, that's how we get into the situation we are. Like if I'm buying shelf-ready steak off the middle of the aisle, that means number one, I don't know what steak is. Number two, I didn't do my research to make sure I'm gonna buy steak, right? And if I'm just buying it based on it, guess what? Maybe I just need to eat some and throw up one time and pay my tuition. Like that's really what it boils down to. Because at the end of the day, like you're not going to be able to stop everybody from going in the grocery store and buying whatever. It don't have to be altcoins. So it's like, just leave it there and leave it the personal responsibility on every individual to educate themselves so that they can make sure that they limit the amount of risk that they take into their body. If we was all in the freaking woods, a raspberry probably looks like another berry that is exactly that one's poison and one's not. So the only way you can almost tell which one's not, you pop that sucker and somebody falls out. It's like, oh, he died. Don't eat that one. Let's keep it moving. Like, it's really where we at. Like, you got to have the personal responsibility out here.
But hold on. I feel like that's, I don't actually feel like that's doing you justice, Lamar, because one of the things that, you and I met on Clubhouse.
Right.
And
right.
I on Clubhouse, I would basically spend hours trolling people, going into like XRP rooms and just like I had like, and I still do, I have like endless patience for just like being in there and constructing these like weird farces and logical arguments and everything. And I took a lot of pleasure in that. It was very fun for me as someone who identifies as a Bitcoin maximalist to just like dunk hardcore on, and not on the people who were being taken in by this stuff, but the people who were promoting those things. Right. And there was a certain point where I had to kind of look at myself in the mirror and being like, am I doing this because I enjoy like just crushing people with like, logical arguments or these carefully constructed conversations about like random stuff and wasting their time? Am I actually helping? And I still do it because it's very fun. But one thing that I was always very impressed with you about is that you had the same level of patience, more than I did actually. But you would go into these rooms and you would have like genuine conversations with people for hours, whereas I would just be like derailing conversations intentionally and talking about just like random shit and animal genitalia and whatever the fuck I wanted. But you would actually engage with these people and try to educate them. And so I think there's like kind of a disconnect between, and that like you quickly developed a reputation for that. That's part of the reason that Black Bitcoin Billionaires was and is such a large community, is that not only were you able to kind of meet people where they were, but also to go into these situations where people were trying to shill these like bullshit tokens and having no idea what the fuck they were talking about. And you would just very carefully and methodically kind of deconstruct their arguments. Whereas people like me would just like scream at them and say random stuff. So I guess it seems like there's a mismatch between like the experience that I had of you on Clubhouse and what you're saying now. And I think maybe the bridge is maybe you're saying, look, like I'm willing to spend hours genuinely trying to bring people who are in these shitcoin communities and are totally going to get wrecked. Whereas like I would kind of be like, look, I'll say the thing like 5, 10, 15 times. And then after that, I'm just going to like, say random shit because I think that's funny. Whereas you would just say the thing 15 times, 30 times. Maybe what you're saying is if you're doing that stuff and then people still continue to make bad choices, then it's kind of like, it's true. Or maybe you're saying like each person has to basically advocate for what they believe in as true, but then the free market has to decide kind of.
So let's use Mills's analogy. This is perfect. Mills's analogy. So me, I'm just like, I'm the guy standing out in front of the grocery store, like steak belongs in the refrigerator. That's all I'm saying. If you want steak, it's in the refrigerator. Now, when you go in the store, you have the right to buy what's in the middle. That's how I'm saying. Like, I don't think it should be like, don't put the stuff in the middle of the store because like I said, if there's apples and Cheetos, like don't go in there and say there's no Cheetos because they're not giving you any nutritional value. I'm saying outside the store, I'm just going to say apples give you amazing nutritional value. They provide this, and this for your everyday life. And then when you go in the store, you choose. Like, I think sometimes regulation comes to take away your choices when the truth is that it takes this personal responsibility away. And that's why we wind up having a bunch of people who blame everything, who blame the government. I seen some woman blaming critical race theory for her son not doing chores. It's like has to be some personal responsibility on all of us to learn, to educate yourself and make decisions based on the education that you have. And if you're just out making decisions based on somebody pointing, saying that steak in the middle of the aisle is the best steak, then you're going to eat the steak and get sick. That's how I feel, man. Like, I just stand out. I just want to give the information, P. So I give the information in those rooms. I'd be as, methodical or whatever as I possibly can. But guess what? I'm not going into the place with them and saying, you can't buy this. I'm not telling them take all of them off of Coinbase. I'm telling them like, hey, Coinbase is probably not the best for me because it's like for new people, it's hard for them to go in there, but I'm not telling people to shut down Coinbase. Give people choices, because what winds up happening is the best choices wind up rising to the top. Like I said, in the forest, there's going to be a group of people dead, and after a while, nobody's going to die from those berries anymore because everybody's going to realize these are the only berries. So let Bitcoin do what it do. Like sometimes we get impatient and just want, let's just take everything out. And it's like, no, let people try all they want. Like let them build what they want. Let them keep trying, figuring it out or whatever. And Bitcoin just continues to chug along and it's still the best regardless of what you keep doing, right? And that's how I look at it. So,
Mills, what do you think?
So I want the record to show that I am not advocating for regulation and banning of this fake meat, right? No. And I think the important delineation that you're touching on, P, is promoting a shitcoin versus buying a shitcoin, right? Those are very, very different things. And I think it's back to your original question, Q, honestly, about how do we bring in someone, let's say they were promoting a shitcoin. How do we, they've moved past it. How do we, treat and rehab or whatever? What does that look like? But what I don't want happening and what I think is happening and what is really frustrating, because I'm not advocating for regulations, I feel like some of the fake meat people, they realized that if they paid the grocery store a little bit, they could put their fake meat product next to the real meat product in the refrigerator, even if it doesn't need to be refrigerated. Because then if someone isn't educated and isn't discerning enough, they might just buy the fake meat. And I think that is what's happening. And that's where, yes, education is going to help that, but I don't want people being taken advantage of. I don't want people being scammed because they literally thought they were in the refrigerated section, but with corruption, with kind of this targeted, why are you shaking your head? Why are you shaking your head?
Because that's the problem, Mills. It's like they're not being taken advantage of. If I sit here and give you what's a good thing that kind of looks the same? Oh, Impossible Meat and a burger, right? You got an Impossible Burger and a burger, and the person is vegan. You get what I'm saying? It's like, who is it on for that person? You're not being taken advantage of if you willingly go and buy something. What happened is that you didn't do your own due diligence enough. Like if investors like, I was taken advantage of because this company came in and said they were going to do all of these great things, because that's what like freaking entrepreneurs say, they're going to do everything. They're going to heal the world. They're going to fix everything. And investors go in and they say, I'm going to put my money on it. Some investors do incredible due diligence. Other investors don't. And so if those investors that do the due diligence walk away and say this was some crap, and the other investors put their money in, those investors were not taken advantage of. It's just that the people who are selling it, because here's what's so funny, this is what I found too, is a lot of people that are selling this stuff, they really believe what they're selling. They really believe that it's going to do all these things. They don't even have a deep enough technical knowledge of why it's going to blow up on Ethereum when they build it on Ethereum, or why it's not going to work if they try to scale it out. They don't even have that much of a knowledge. So the people that are actually selling it are ignorant. They are ignorant themselves. So they think what they're selling is amazing thing. I saw Kevin O'Leary talking about freaking property on the blockchain again. And I'm thinking to myself, like, here we go. You get what I'm saying? Like, he's talking about it. This is a dude that was at the Bitcoin conference, and I see him talking now. He still don't get it. He's like, yeah, we can tokenize your property. And he don't understand the whole Oracle situation. He don't understand the point of trying to put something physical into something digital. He don't get it. He believes it himself. He thinks that what these other people have sold him is already good. So I think there's a long train of disconnection between what's real and what's not. And
so
you gotta leave it there, man.
So wait. So separate from all the analogies, the steak analogy, the rotting meat analogy, I just keep thinking of Upton Sinclair, like, the guy falls into the vat and gets cooked into the meat, and I'm like, let's fucking go. I want to eat the human. No, I'm kidding.
Jungle.
Yeah, the jungle. But wait. So separate from all the analogies, like what are we actually talking about here? What is the thing, Mills, that you're advocating for? What is the thing that Lamar you are advocating for? Because I've lost the plot.
I think Mills, can I hear this? Is the best way to tell if you're listening. I think Mills is saying that we shouldn't allow things to be right next up to Bitcoin, sold as Bitcoin, if it doesn't have the properties of Bitcoin. And it shouldn't even be allowed to be on the shelf. Is that correct, Mills?
I don't want it to be labeled as Bitcoin if it's not Bitcoin.
What do you think is labeled as Bitcoin if it's not? You talking about like BSV or?
Yeah, she's talking about. I think Mills is talking about
Bitcoin, like Bitcash, stuff like that.
Bitcoin Cash. Is that what you're talking about? Are you talking about like Ethereum?
Or are you saying like going on an exchange? I realize we have like 5 people talking at you, and I'm sorry. Are you talking about like going on an exchange like Coinbase that has Bitcoin and everything else versus something like Strike or Cash App that is only Bitcoin oriented?
Right.
I think more so what you're saying, Q, but I also think there are products that are kind of passed off as Bitcoin. But I think, and I agree with you on this, Lamar, that I'm not saying the burden of responsibility is on the person who's making the thing at all. You need to know if you're a vegan and you're at the grocery store, you need to be able to tell the difference between fake meat and real meat, or you're not a vegan, you're illiterate or something. So you need to be the one taking responsibility and ownership. I think what I'm really saying, and what I think to your point of education, I think it's educating the people promoting alternatives to Bitcoin that maybe they don't get it. I mean, it does seem like a missionary, like evangelistic, hey, if they don't get it, sure. But I think maybe at the end of the day, there's a part of me that doesn't think that they don't get it. I don't think they're just like in ignorance. I think that a lot of them are willfully taking advantage and monopolizing and riding the wave of the stability that Bitcoin does provide. And instead of helping people, pointing people, building Bitcoin adjacent products, that they are scamming.
I think
but that's my question though, Mills. It's like, who is it on?
Wait.
Believe me, I got people that try to sell me crazy stuff on the street all the time. Right? Just on the street. Like, hey, bro, check this out, man. I got this, right?
Wait.
On the street. But it's like, is it on me or them? Like, as long as I walk past them and say, I'm not giving you my money for that, then who is it on?
I think we're actually all on the same page. I suspect. I think that basically, my view, and tell me if either of you disagree, is that what?
No, I said I like this.
I disagree.
Fuck you. Q, we're gonna fight later. No, we're on the same page. No. My view is that basically, I totally agree with your sentiment, Mills. It is infuriating to me that there are all these bullshit tokens that basically affinity scam on Bitcoin, right? Like I said this before, but I wouldn't care about Ethereum. I wouldn't feel this like, this kind of like gag reflex if it was presented, in my opinion, as it actually is, which is to say, if Vitalik was like, yo, this is like some crazy startup bullshit, like it doesn't really work right now, but we have a dream and we're going to make this dream real and blah, 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 blah. But that's not how it's presented. It's presented as a fait accompli. It's fucking, Ethereum 2.0, Ethereum 3.0, whatever, like it's happening. It's going to happen. And they've delayed it like years and years and years. And they just keep building on the bullshit, right? I wouldn't care if it was accurately communicated. I think we all agree that like that is a terrible thing. And it takes people away from this thing that we all feel is moral imperative to bring to as many people as possible, which is Bitcoin. It's this life-changing, savings technology. It's so many other things. That's just one of them. But I think that we would all agree that the market is a free market, or it should be a free market, and people should be able, to advocate for whatever they want, but we also should be able to dunk on them and tell them to go fuck themselves, or to put a lot of effort into educating other people, or to do kind of whatever we want and all's fair in love and war, and the market will decide. I think that basically, at the end of the day, I don't think any of us would advocate for like regulation, but maybe we would. Does anyone in this conversation think that like we should be regulating how Bitcoin is referred to?
I don't think it's
You raised a finger. Oh, okay.
I
He's
raised
like,
a finger because I want to add on to this point, because I agree with like most of this conversation, but I think where I'm having a hard time and where I think I separate and deviate from this, and I think I get what Lamar's point is and where he's, I think, disagreeing with you, Mills, is this idea that we have to dictate out or control what other people want to do. And as a result, if they go off and harm other people, is that our responsibility or not? And that's a genuine like question all Bitcoiners need to be asking, because like we use the argument that, hey, Bitcoin is simply code. And if code is just speech written on a computer algorithm, and therefore freedom of speech should be protected by the First Amendment, then any iteration of said speech, any changes to it, any adjustments, any recreations of it are theoretically also protected under those same guidelines. And just because we don't agree with it, just because we don't like it, just because we think it's a scam or we know it's a scam, doesn't necessarily mean it gives us now this absolute right to say, hey, no, fuck you, Vitalik. Like, no.
No, it does.
Yes.
We can say that.
But it feels,
but it doesn't, because it's a slippery slope.
No, wait, hold on.
It feels crusaded. This is a great conversation. Listen, but it just feels so crusadish to me. It just feels like I'm going to put my beliefs on your forehead, and if you don't believe it, let me cut you down and try to destroy you. And it's like, no, bro. Like what I am down with in the facts that I have are the facts that I have, right? And I'm going to do it for myself. Because all of this, here's the one thing that we're missing, everybody. This is all opt-in. Every single thing we're talking about is you get to opt in or not. And if you decide to opt in, like half of us have had boyfriends and girlfriends that we opted into and they was crap when it was all said and done. They were marketed to us in a certain way, and we found out that they were awful along the way, and we opted in. Do we blame them for being the jerk or the dog? No, we blame ourselves. We go, what the heck? Why did I even deal with her? Why did I deal with that dude? This is all opt-in. If it's opt-in, then we have to remember that it's on us individually. Ain't nobody coming to save you. There's no superhero.
Wait.
Okay.
But wait, Mills, can I say one thing and then you can jump in?
Pure freedom.
Wait. Wait, Lamar. I agree with you, but in the same way, it is my right to go in and shit all over whatever the project is, and to be super aggro about it if I want to. And other people can decide like, hey, look, that's not the effective way to communicate about this, right?
I don't care if it is or not. Do what you want, Pete.
Exactly.
Like, I don't never care about toxic people. I literally don't give a crap about toxic people. I try to tell the yellow belt Maxie, look, check this out. I'm just trying to teach you so that when you go back in there and fight, you can fight better. Like, if you're going to go fight these people, they make you look real stupid when they start digging in and you have no facts. Now, all of a sudden, you look really crazy. Come to the dojo. Let me Miyagi you up. Let me get you some stuff so you can go back out there and fight. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. I'd like to bring it back to where we really all started. I am not saying regulation. I am not saying we don't have freedom of speech. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying that I think when we value our community, we take the time to share with the people that are in our circle to help them. It is not that we are mandated to do so or not able to freely speak about. It's none of that. It's that we are motivated to protect our community and build our community. And that is the thrust. It is not, that it should be illegal to do bad things or to say whatever you want.
I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah, that's definitely on my page, Mills. That's what I'm saying. I'm just gonna.
That's on your page too.
You know it is. That's what I've been saying. I just educate everybody.
Yo, let me see your page, Lamar.
Like,
hold up that page.
Hey,
Lamar.
I got my page right here. Free panties from somewhere. I don't know. Free panties with no money. Hey, no,
I love this place. I'm wearing my free panties right now.
I didn't even. I looked down. That's what I was looking down at. I was like, I guess it's my daughter's or my wife's. So it's like free panties, no purchase required.
It's a safe space, Lamar. Like,
it's pink. It's pink. I don't even know what pinky is. Anyway, okay, thank you, Mills. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
You can clearly see I just give the card. Y'all go do what you're gonna do. No, but I think we're all on the same page. I think for us, the community, building the community, educating the community, that kind of thing is a powerful thing. But I think on the flip side of that, do I think that they need to come after? Because I just don't like taking any freedoms away like that. I enjoy choice. I enjoy free will. I don't think that the government should be getting into things that are opt-in, just to be real about it. Like if it's an opt-in, like stay up out of my business. Like I should be able to, if as long as what I'm doing is not harming someone else, get out of my business. You know what I'm saying?
So we all agree on freedom, and we all agree that it's important to give back to your community and provide education, invest time to help people make the right decision at the grocery store, metaphorically.
Wait, what?
Yeah, what's the right decision? That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
but Bitcoin is totally different.
You're not allowed to shitcoin. Don't forget.
No, that's real.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think that we all
you are
have...
allowed, Q. It's just consequences. You might get canceled. You might not get to speak at another conference. There's a whole bunch of stuff you ain't gonna be able to do if you start getting that. You'll get to speak.
You'll get shanked.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, not literally. Metaphorically shanked.
You hang out with P enough, literally.
Literally.
Wait,
go ahead, P. Go ahead, Mills.
I just realized that we've got a L, M, and a PQ, but we really have we're really working towards a whole stretch of alphabet. Sorry, that was a real irrelevant off, but I just looked at all of our letters.
Someone go get Odell. He will be our O, and we need an N. I need an N stat.
Right. You got one in my name.
LMNOPQ. For those who didn't pick up on what we were talking about.
Yeah, for everybody who's a little bit slow motion on it. But I think we're in a good spot. I think this was a great conversation. Like when are we gonna have more debates like this, Q? Like put me on stage.
Honestly,
look,
Lamar, I sent you the calendar invite. I'm going to tell you right now, I want to steal you for 20 more minutes. I'm not letting you go for 20 more minutes.
That's fine, man. I listen, I opened it up for you because I messed up the last time. So I told my wife, don't be doing nothing. I'm not doing nothing today. I'm chilling with Q. I don't care what Q got me doing. I'm on. You know what I'm saying?
This has been great. Look, I think we are on the same page. And I think there's something that maybe I'm just going to say, and we could, again, agree with, or we might not. But I think there is also a valuable lesson for people to learn to go down the shitcoin path and to go down and get scammed. Like, dude, I'll be honest. I'll share this story. I got scammed in college out of like almost $2,000. And like, it was
son.
It was a really embarrassing issue. Like, it was so stupid looking back. I was like, I fell for that. But like, not like I learned from that. I've become so much better, much more cunning. I've caught my friends in the middle of a scam. Like, that's a scam. 2 weeks later, I'll get a phone call. How did you fucking know? But like, I've had to go through that very expensive lesson at an early age. And I kind of think some of this altcoinery is exactly that. I got a text from a good friend from college, literally after months of us going back and forth. Dude, I've got so much in Luna, man. This is, Do Kwon, man. He's carrying Bitcoin. You gotta put some in there. Sends me a text last week. Dude, I am a Bitcoin maxi now for sure. And like, that's a growing pain. It's a lesson that had to be learned, a very expensive lesson, but I think it's also an important lesson. And sometimes, to our points today, like, you want to go down the shitcoin path? God bless, my friend. I hope you are successful. And I hope the lessons you learn are not very expensive. But where do you guys feel about that? Are you like, you're on your own down there, or are you trying to save people?
Q, Ansel, look, check this out. Don't it seem very contradictory or ironic for a bunch of people who would not put on masks in the midst of a huge pandemic in Miami 2 years ago, 2 conferences ago, to be this, like, just to basically say, let the freaking disease run its course, to then also be the same people that say, we need to get rid of all the diseases. We need to make sure everybody has a mask away from every one of the diseases. To me, it doesn't make sense. There's such an irony there. For people who say they are completely capitalist and about freedom, to be the same people that are like, don't let people lose their money on stuff. Like, to me, that it doesn't work out. It just, to me, again, it feels very crusadish. It feels very much like my way, and it has to be this way because I want to win completely. Not understanding that you already because I truthfully believe that some of these people that act like they got so much faith in Bitcoin, they really don't have as much faith as they say they have in Bitcoin. They really don't think it's going to win. They really feel like one of these other coins, if it gets enough popularity, if enough people start to use it, it's going to flip Bitcoin. Like, you need to question yourself. You don't really believe in Bitcoin. You just want Bitcoin to win because you dollar cost average since it was at 19,000 and you wanted to get to a certain point because you feel like, oh, I've put my time in. The truth of the matter is that you shouldn't be believing in Bitcoin. You should be understanding Bitcoin. It's not about belief. If you understand Bitcoin, you don't give a crap what else is out there because you know you're going to win in the first place. Period. That's what I'm saying. I just feel like this community gets so, some people, it's really the Twitter guys. I just got on Twitter. It's really the Twitter people. Like, they get so backwards. In one breath, they want people to die from COVID. If you die, you die anyway. In the same breath, they don't want people to lose $100 to, I don't know, name a coin. You get what I'm saying? To Litecoin, right? It's the craziest thing to me. Let the thing do what it's gonna do. And if you know Bitcoin's the best, you do it. That's how I feel, Q. That's where it comes from right there. Go ahead, Miss Mills.
Let the people buy fake meat.
Right. Let them buy it. It might be delicious. We've been doing it at Taco Bell forever. Like, Taco Bell's had fake meat forever. And then when they found out, did people stop going to Taco Bell? No. They just doubled down and made fake chicken. Now they got French fries. Like, it's like nobody's telling Taco Bell stop selling fake beef.
Let them buy it, but also
eat my horse meat from Taco Bell in peace. Come on,
right,
Lamar.
right, eat it.
But also,
look at me.
No, I'm just thinking. I mean, look, I've been talking about like insect milk for the last like week, man. Let's fucking go.
I literally said, "Oh no!" in this room the moment it went back to you, Mills. We're done interrupting you, Chris. Mute.
I'm sorry, Mills. Yeah, I'm saying, let me mute myself. We joking too much. Go ahead, Mills.
Let them eat fake meat, as Marie Antoinette said. Thank you. But it doesn't mean that we can't talk to people when we see them. If they're talking to us about it, I think I want to have an open door policy in that someone could be like, hey, I'm doing this. I'm not sure I understand this. I'm like, how do I, is this I'm not saying I'm going to give people advice on their investments, but if someone comes to me and is like, hey, can I ask you, Luna, like, what's the deal? Or Doge, I don't want to laugh at them. I don't want to tell them that they're stupid. I'm going to say, hey, let me break it down for you. Let me explain the difference here. And there's a difference, and there's a certain humility that, yeah, if you think Bitcoin's going to win, if you are long on Bitcoin, and you're right, it's not faith. It's just like, hey, this is what I've chosen. This is the path I'm on. Here we are. Then, yeah, I'm not threatened by anything else that comes about, but I also want to give time to explain that to people and to explain, hey, well, so this beef comes from a cow. This beef comes from a laboratory, and there's a huge difference here. And this is kind of how I see it. And this is my vantage point. And I think it's back to how do you welcome in a former shitcoiner, Q? Because it's harder for me to forgive someone that was promoting something unless, they didn't understand, they didn't know. But I think that's why having conversations and having dialogues with different people and breaking it down for them of what makes Bitcoin unique, what makes Bitcoin special, and leaning on the strengths of Bitcoin instead of all the things that are off, like when you look at a fake purse, a fake bag, you compare it to an original. You say on an original, this is how the logo is, this is how the stitching is, this is how it looks. And so you can hold anything up to Bitcoin and you can say, hey, this is this compared to this. Thanks for letting me talk, guys. You guys did great.
We wanted to make sure you had an uninterrupted moment. Since
Appreciate it.
every time you open your mouth, all the men felt like they had to interrupt you.
Look at me. Look at me. But
No,
listen,
I'm just making funny facial expressions. I'm contributing, guys. I'm helping.
I keep laughing. But Mills, I hear exactly what you said. I think we all, I really do believe closer to the same page now. I don't know. It's just been weird for me because when I first started in Bitcoin, a lot of the people that you even know now were experimenting with all kinds of stuff. You can find plenty of forums of some of your favorite Bitcoiners talking about Litecoin and putting stuff on Litecoin and doing stuff like, right? Nobody I remember hardly ever really fooled with Ethereum like it. Let's just be all the way real. But like using Litecoin as an experimental thing, like people were just talking about and messing with everything. And I think we went through some cycles. I think we had like the engineering and libertarian, very anarchist cycle. That was the beginning, right? And then we moved into the financial cycle where it was all of these guys, a number go up, like the money part, the monetary part. And I think now we're moving more into like a marketing cycle. And I think it's everybody has enough information from the blogs and from the podcast. Think about all the podcasts. Like, shout out to a dude, I'm not gonna say his name, but there's a dude who barely knew anything about Bitcoin that has blew up extremely fast in this type of environment, right? As far as being a person that is a media individual. But that's because we've moved into this marketing, like media cycle of Bitcoin, where people are just using talking points and saying the same things over and over again, and the memes are carrying the way, right? That kind of thing. It's not you, Q. It ain't you. People who know who I'm talking about know who I'm talking about. So you see that we've moved into that cycle. It's because of that cycle, the ideas about how Bitcoin are and how you can have the freedom change, right? When you come from a libertarian type of group of individuals, them cats ain't, they someone we ain't gonna take it type stuff, right? Like I always tell the story of flip-flops and ARs. That's what I was like going to a basement. That's what you see. You know what I'm saying? Y'all crazy. I can't do this while I'm talking. So that's the kind of mentality that I saw early on in the space. And now it's like a completely different group of individuals out here. And I think it's going to keep morphing. As more people get into the idea of Bitcoin and they start getting into custody, think about it. The mentality is going to completely change for people who just their first Bitcoin is in custody and they never talk to any of us to tell them to get it on their own wallet. Those people's mentality is going to be completely different. Twitter's going to change. People are going to be talking about Bitcoin in a whole different way. And I think we just got to just understand that's where it's coming. And that's why you have to have your grounded roots in understanding why Bitcoin, why it exists, what it is. And once you get that understanding, then you just sit back and chill. You don't care about the price. You don't care about none of that. You just accumulate, go to Nashville, hang out with 100 people. You know what I'm saying? Chill. You feel me?
My friends, sorry, Q, I have to derail us for just a second longer. I just discovered insect milk is a real thing. Holy fucking shit. I have to find myself some.
Are you serious?
Dairy derivative or superfood? What is insect milk? It's a whole thing on YouTube. I mean, on fucking Google. Just
what
Google
do they do? Just crush the? Do they just crush?
No, there's like some type of cockroach that like makes like milk. Sponsored by the World Economic
I
Forum.
am so disgusted right now.
Christmas Klaus, definitely like he like suckles in the teat of a giant like bioengineered cockroach that's like kill me, and Klaus is like just milking that. Anyway, these are facts. You can look it up.
Throw up if we continue this conversation. So
that's what I'm here for.
You're getting muted.
Wait. Another thing that's going to make everybody throw up. Let's talk about this fucking Vitalik thread before we have to close out.
Oh, yes.
This is like, if this isn't someone, yeah, the
contradictions.
You know he's drinking that insect milk. That's why he looks the way he does.
Let me, P, if I may, let me teach you the way we introduce Vitalik on this show.
Excuse me.
Because Vitalik has founded one truly incredible piece of software is a stretch, but I would like he founded something truly remarkable. He really did. And that was Bitcoin Magazine. And then his second child is what we're going to talk about now, Ethereum. That is the way we introduce Vitalik, our actual father, our first father who gave us up for adoption. And we are so grateful for his stepdaddy.
I did not see that coming. That's
I
good.
didn't either. Meals, unmute, Meals, unmute, Meals.
It's a different mother though, right, Q?
Yes, different mom. A whole new marriage.
Okay.
We were put up for adoption, and that is how we found our new family.
So is Ethereum test tube baby? Like, was it a?
You know how like some people have second families? That's
and you say
that's
I'm weird.
Bitcoin Magazine's relationship with our technically half quarter. We'll call it a quarter brother. Our quarter brother Ethereum.
But what
But
if
there is
it like how Michael Jackson had Blanket? Is it that kind
Exactly. It's exactly the same thing.
Okay.
It's great. I
So
wouldn't even call that an analogy. That's just like straight
straight up
one comparison.
the big one from this thread, the big tweet from this thread that we'll post in the chat as well so everyone can follow along. It's a series of contradictions that Vitalik is sharing that he's sort of grappling with. And the one in particular I want to highlight is the second one. Because last week on the show, we were joined by Brandon Green, who actually shared a theory or idea that he genuinely believes that Vitalik could actually end up coming back to Bitcoin. And in this actual contradiction, I will just read it. Contradiction between my desire to see Ethereum become a more Bitcoin-like system, emphasizing long-term stability. I swear to God, he put stability and stability, including culturally, and my realization that getting there requires quite a lot of active, coordinated, short-term change, like maybe you getting out of the driver's seat. I'd love your guys' thoughts. Just, Vitalik has been a very notable figure in the crypto world. He has become the face of crypto land with so many projects being built on top of Ethereum. He was a part of the Bitcoin community and a developer, I believe, very early on before he branched off to essentially go off and form Ethereum. What happens though when someone like that turns around and is like, you know what? All of the work I've done is probably wrong, and we probably should have just focused in on Bitcoin. Like, what could that have? This is my dream scenario. I do not think it is realistic to say like Vitalik's just going to shut down Ethereum. He's getting too much money from all the VCs up in Silicon Valley and in Wall Street to ever just turn it off. That's just my 2 cents there.
I have a super brief. It's not a fantasy, and that's going to sound weird, but like I've thought and entertained the thought of what if he comes back to Bitcoin, and how do we, like, he prodigal sons, how does it go? Another biblical reference for you, Lamar.
It won't work. It won't matter.
And there is this thought of, did he just try to reinvent the wheel? Like he thought, I'm gonna make another wheel. This is great, more wheels. And that's, I have more granular thoughts, but big picture, I don't know.
It won't matter. Even if he comes back to Bitcoin, it won't matter. Because the cat's out of the bag. It's like whoever invented crack, they might have looked back and said, oh, it destroyed so many people. But it was too late. Crack's out, people selling it. It won't matter. Like the people who are trying to make money and create these scams and these Ponzi schemes and whatever else they're building on it, it's already out the bag. You've already done it. But I do think the irony of it is that people were telling Vitalik very early on, a lot of the developers were telling him, like, this type of a design is not going to work in a decentralized manner. They tried to tell him this before Ethereum even was born, right? They told him this is not going to work. And he didn't listen then. And now that you're seeing that it's not working, and the fact that they have to move to a 2.0, or basically they move it to a database type of architecture system, it just lets you know, like, sometimes you just got to listen to the people who know what they're talking about, right? It's really all it boils down to. So that's all. If he came back, it's cool. I ain't got no beef with the man. It is what it is. Again, do what you do, bro.
Do you have any fake beef with him?
Yes. Center of the aisle, fake beef. that is sprinkled with insect milk. Clearly.
Wow.
Yeah,
Full circle.
Go ahead. Yeah, P, what you think, man, about the contradictions, bro?
Man, I'm so sorry. I'm just like scrolling through insect milk. I'm just going down the rabbit hole. No, man, I think that Vitalik has always had, to be honest, like in my opinion, very little to add to Bitcoin. I think that he's not even like, he's part of a group of people, and I think they successfully identified, like, if we put the person who is perceived as being the weirdest, like this was during a time in Silicon Valley where like being autistic, being the sort of like weird, technically focused entrepreneur member of the team was super sexy. And he's just the front man. He has a lot of power there. Certainly. He's like the CEO of Ethereum. That's like, I'm doing air quotes there, but, that's the reason he's the face of it. There are other people who are deeply invested in Ethereum and who are part of deciding what happens. He's just the face, who has a lot of power, but he's one of the faces. I think that this is nothing more than him trying to engineer a graceful exit from a totally fucked situation. And I think that this is just the first step. I think in a couple months or a year or whatever, he's going to, as the time goes on, he's going to post more and more like, oh, I had some other realizations. He's known what the fuck was going on from the start. And this is all just moving chess pieces around on the board.
Before he even tried.
Yeah.
Before he even did. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't care if he comes back to Bitcoin. I don't think he has anything to add to it.
Bitcoin don't need none of us. Like, real talk. Like, Bitcoin just is what it is. It's an amazing invention. Like, wheels don't need us. Wheels exist. It's like Bitcoin exists. So, well, thank you, Q.
Yeah, this was awesome.
Guys, this was awesome. This was a lot of fun. We do need to wrap right now because we have a new episode of Fed Watch where we're going to be joined by Tom Luongo. So stick around through this commercial break. A big thank you to our guests who joined us today, both Lamar Wilson and Specific Mills. Make sure you give them both a follow on Twitter if you're not already. Stick around through this commercial break, guys, and we'll be back with a new episode of Fed Watch.
Live. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Fed Watch. My name is Ansel Lindner, and this is the macro show about Bitcoin. Today, we have a banger of an episode lined up with the most requested repeat guest on the show, Tom Luongo. Tom, how are you doing?
I'm good, Ansel. Thank you for the invite, and thanks to all the listeners who wanted to have me back. It's great. It's cool.
Yeah, you are probably one of my favorite writers right now. I just think that you have very entertaining prose, and you have a refreshing narrative, a refreshing view. So we're going to dive all into that today.
Sure.
But before we get started, let's have a real short obligatory bio. And then can you tell us what's going on with Gold, Goats, and Guns, please?
Sure. So I am Tom Luongo. I'm the proprietor or publisher of Gold, Goats, and Guns, which is both a blog, a podcast, and a monthly newsletter, Patreon service, where I, marry geopolitics and markets and culture war and all the rest of it to try and make sense of what's going on and eventually give people a coherent kind of investment thesis to make sense of all this and try and survive it. So that's what I do.
Awesome. Okay. And I listened to all of your stuff. I listen probably every episode within a day that it's released, and read all of your articles that both are syndicated on Zero Hedge and on your blog there. Can you tell us, are you as bearish as everybody else? I think that right now, everyone seems to be doom and gloom. There's huge recession coming. The Fed is making a mistake. There's war. China's collapsing. Are you as bearish as everyone else, or do you think we might be kind of oversold here, at least for the United States?
This is a really good question. And I was looking at, because you sent me this stuff as the outline beforehand. I'm like mulling these questions over, and I'm like, these are going to be fun. I'm not as bearish as most, at least on the United States. I think that at the end of the day, I think the Fed is not as serious. And I've been saying this for a while now, that the Fed is serious, that they are staring at an existential threat, just like everybody else is staring at existential threats. Russia's staring at one with NATO and Ukraine. Europe is staring at one with, Hungary saying no to whatever it is they want to go forward with. The neocons in Washington are staring at an existential threat to their Mackinder Heartland theory that they and the Brits have been concocting for 200 years. Like, there's all of this stuff. Everything seems to be coming to a head all at once. It's almost like a boil right on your backside, and it's like it's at maximum, and everybody's got maximum pain right now. And that includes the what I would call Davos, right, who is also staring at an unprecedented pushback against their policy of their Great Reset and all the rest of it. It's hard to see it all because it's kind of bits and pieces, and well, this one's pushing back a little bit, this group's pushing back a little bit, Bitcoin exists but it's in a bear market, and blah 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 blah. So it's hard to wrap your brain around all of it. But let's just make it simple. They're pushing as hard as possible to rob you of your reason, as Murray Rothbard would put it, that there's been nothing but a systemic attack on all safe haven assets in the last 2 months. Are we going to argue with this? Like, Bitcoin got repulsed of breaking out above 46 grand a few weeks ago. I told my patrons, watch that weekly close carefully. It's bad. We're now, down in the 29s. This is where we are. Gold challenged its all-time high. It got quashed. The Fed comes out with the first 50 basis point rate hike in history, in over 20 years. And everybody is finally going, oh my God, maybe they're serious. Because before the Fed has even raised interest rates, everybody's like, well, when are they going to stop raising interest rates? Like, have you ever thought that maybe the Fed's like going to keep raising interest rates, and maybe they have an incentive to do so? So in light of that, I really have to say that I look at the situation in the world today and I go, who's the sick man at the table? Who's the most vulnerable to this conditions that we have today and the things that have been unleashed that no amount of central bank policy can change, which is rising inflation, rising commodity prices, loss of institutional confidence by people, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's Europe. Is Europe has Europe been wiped out of all of its capital? I don't think so. Not when German 10 years are trading at 1%, right? Not when Italian 10 years are still trading at a premium to American 10 years, like, because the ECB hasn't ended QE yet. Like, no, there's trillions of dollars in capital that are stuffed overseas, either in mattresses in the form of $100 bills or on balance sheets on investment portfolios around the world. And at some point, that money is going to flow somewhere. And where's it going to flow? Like, it's got to flow to the US, because as we're setting up for a hot war in Ukraine, a wider hot war in Ukraine, who's in the crosshairs? It certainly isn't New York, but is it Warsaw? I mean, who's more likely to get attacked by the Russians at this point, New York or Warsaw? If I'm capital, and capital doesn't like to deal with uncertainties like this, those are big tail risks. Well, they're only going to fly to the United States. Now, that's to say that the United States markets aren't overvalued. They are. That the property markets here aren't overvalued. They are. All of that stuff, and that the dollar isn't even somewhat overvalued. It is, but that doesn't matter in the short run. What matters in the short run is everybody's going to freak out, and that's why the dollar's rising. It's why the euro is falling, for among other reasons, and it's why the yen is getting killed, the pound is getting killed, and everything else is getting killed. So I'd watch very carefully for a technical breakout on the USDX on the quarterly chart this quarter above 104. If we close above 104 in the USDX, we're going to 125, 130. When I say this to professional money managers who I've chatted with, they just look at me like I got four hits. I'm like, well, where else do you think it's going to go? If we're ginning up a war, where else do you think this is going to go? We're going to go to $200 a barrel oil. The Fed can't stop inflation with raising interest rates when the inflation is of the cost push or supply chain broken variety. Keynesians will tell you are only obsessed with the demand side of the curve, not the supply side of the curve. Demand side, yeah, when you've got demand pull, it's easy. You cut back, you raise the cost of money, and you shut people's access to capital off, and you cool the economy off. When the economy's poor and everybody's scrambling around trying to find that next pound of copper, I got news for you: interest rates don't matter. Rising interest rates are then a function of loss of confidence, not of the Fed trying to cool off an overheating economy. They're following the markets right now. The markets are leading the charge here. So I'm a bear on debt. Eventually I will be a bull once this initial rush into cash, because everybody's scared, is over. And then I'll be a bull, hyper bull, on all things tangible: gold, silver, Bitcoin, real estate to a greater or lesser extent, commodities, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, we agree perfectly there, with Europe being the sick old man in the room, and Warsaw or Poland, that's like the fastest growing economy in Europe over the last 10 years. And they're like the most vulnerable. So the growth engine of Europe is the one on the border.
What's interesting, because I just literally read an article, a little short blurb over on RT, right? I know I read Russian propaganda, but the Russian propaganda is telling you that now the recent economic surveys out of Poland, which you'll never hear out of the Financial Times, are that Poles can't make ends meet either. Okay, that inflation is killing the Poles, that they're having trouble. And we haven't even gotten started yet. And now they want to what? They're going to buy U.S. natural gas, the liquefied natural gas, at 3 times the price as Russian pipe gas. Good luck with that. I turn on those coal plants if I were you.
Yeah. So you touched there on the Fed being kind of impotent right now in this situation. And also that you think the Fed is serious, that they're not going to, be the Fed put once again on the market. But do you see them going the whole time this year, raising rates? And what would be the reason for that? If we're, the U.S. economy is prints of second quarter GDP that's way negative, and everybody is screaming about recession. Is this going to be kind of a confidence game for the Fed? What's your take on them going forward?
So Keynesians, let's back up for a second. So Keynesians tell you that you have to do, that we have a savings dearth, right? And so they want us to raise rate. They want to do counter-cyclical stuff. You can't raise rates now. You got the Austrians saying that the Fed is trapped, right? Well, at some point, like in the 1970s, Paul Volcker kept raising interest rates after Arthur Burns started the process. Everybody talks about Paul Volcker raised interest rates, but people forget that Arthur Burns raised interest rates to 11% before he left office. And then Volcker took over and raised it to 19 or 20%, right? Everybody forgets this. So Powell's there's been like 2 phases of Powell. There's been the original push to raise interest rates aggressively, and then the Corona apocalypse, which forced him back to the zero bound. And now we're back to hardcore Powell again, wanting to raise interest rates. Powell understands that the Fed has to not only shrink its balance sheet and provide those treasuries back to the market, because there's a dearth of high quality collateral out there in the repo markets, because no one wants European debt as collateral, repo collateral. The only marginal buyer of European sovereign debt is the ECB. So when that stops, everything explodes to the upside. So Lagarde is talking about doing that at the beginning of Q3. Good luck with that, Christine. I hope I hope that goes well for you. I think the Fed is think the Fed is serious. I think they will continue to raise rates. Well, the Eurodollar futures curve is saying they're going to raise rates until June of 2023. I think the Eurodollar futures curve is smoking crack. I think they're going to do it until the end of 2024 or at the end of 2023, and remind everybody who the big dog at the table is. You can taper a Ponzi scheme when you're the biggest Ponzi, and all the other little Ponzi's can get destroyed.
So you think they're going scorched earth?
I think they have to go scorched earth. I think if they want to retain their position as the world's most important central bank and to bleed off this this impetus by a bunch of crazy European technocrats, I mean communists, from destroying central banking and destroying the very important and powerful commercial banking interests in the United States, the single most powerful lobbying group in the United States, then I think you have to destroy Europe. And I think geopolitically, there's support for that. There's politically there's support for that on Capitol Hill, because the neocons hate Europe. They want Europe to fight their war for them against Russia. So that tracks. You've got Davos wants to deindustrialize Europe and rebuild it, and actually deindustrialize the world. If they can't win, then they don't want anybody to win, which is really the way they're prosecuting this right now. But at the same time, you have some of their, which is very interesting, that I figured that was the case. And then all of a sudden, in the last couple of weeks, we've seen Italy, Germany, and France all scream for a ceasefire in Ukraine, which is a kind of way of them saying, okay, look, we can't do this. Oh, well, maybe somebody's finally starting to improvise, because they were never able to beat the Fed, and they were never able to really beat the decentralized nature of US federalism to keep the American economy from completely collapsing by centralizing it in Washington. And, you know, governors like DeSantis and Abbott and a few others have been able to break the COVID tyranny, which was important in this process. So now we have the Fed is serious about wanting to raise interest rates, because if you force, you know, European rates back to parity or where they should be, trading at a deficit to, I mean, they should be trading, you know, at a deficit to US yields. I'm sorry, but I think Italian 10 years should be trading at 8% if if US 10 years trading at 3%. I think that's reasonable. I think anybody who looks at the markets thinks that's reasonable. And yet it's trading at what, 2? It's ridiculous. It's fundamentally ridiculous. But that's what has to happen in order for this to, but at some point, there comes a point where you have to prove that to the ECB that they don't have an unlimited checkbook and they can go bankrupt. And so the Fed is attacking the gold price at the same time, because that destroys the ECB's balance sheet, because they mark their gold to market. Okay. They're attacking Davos is attacking Bitcoin and stable coins because they're desperate to try and usher in their central bank digital currencies. Right. You've got Gensler doing his job over at the SEC. You've got everybody, like, you've got all these flying monkeys running around doing various things. And they're all like, you know, they're all operating their individual fiefdoms, and the whole thing is a mess. But at the center of it all is Jerome Powell quietly going, dudes, we're raising interest rates. Get over it. And we're going to do that. And we have to liquidate the malinvestment. We have 14 years worth of malinvestment since the end of 2008 to get rid of, thanks to QE and, you know, various forms of QT. We have to get rid of it. And I mean, between Zoltan Pozar's notes about how you can't solve the current problems you can't solve this current crisis with interest rates. So the Fed's not solving those problems with interest rates. The Fed's solving a different problem, which is a completely insane political power grab, using what tools it has available to it, and let the chips fall where they may on top, as far as the economy is concerned, because we need a recession in the United States. But at the same time, we also are going to be the recipient of capital flow, which from the rest of the world, which is going to go through a massive inflationary depression. And we should see some of that mitigated. Whether or not the Dow rallies from here or not is irrelevant. I think the US markets are going to outperform, even if it's a general bear market. I don't have a crystal ball on that. I can see the Dow going to 50,000. I can see the Dow going to 25,000, but I can also see the German DAX going to 3,000 or German rates going to 12%. Take your pick. Okay. That's what you could see a 90% washout in European assets and a 40% washout in American assets, and American assets are winning. And I could see another 20% drop or 30% drop in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin would still be winning. Or gold could drop another $150 and it would still be winning because it's only losing 9% from where it's currently trading. Right. So it's all relative. It's about purchasing power. It's about the value of what you can get for the money and the assets that you have relative to the value of other assets, even though we can either hyper deflate or hyperinflate the two sides of the same coin. Take your pick.
Yeah. One of the things that is just fascinating about your analysis is that you can have rising rates from the Fed, and that's not necessarily stock market bearish because of all the capital inflows that will be coming into the United States.
U.S. stock market bearish.
Yeah, U.S. stock markets. Yeah.
Let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
Not to say that I don't think the Chinese markets aren't going to also do well. Okay, because China's already gone through a massive bear market in large caps. Once they open up the economy again, once they stop playing games with mucking with supply chains to create even stronger inflation here in the United States to support Russia's war in Ukraine, once they open the country back up again and they actually start letting goods move, because it's kind of the Chinese version of soft capital controls. It's horrible and it's horrific and it's all those things. And don't get me wrong, I have zero tolerance for it morally, but I'm just putting on my sociopathic political analyst hat here. I'm just analyzing things, dispassionately.
Getting into the heads of a crazy person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Getting into the heads of psychopaths.
So Wall Street now, I also like how you frame that Wall Street is kind of revolting against the Davos crowd, that would include the ECB. So there is this fraction between central banks, if you will.
Sure.
Now, do you think that the just this news that we got over the last, I think, 48 hours of the EU now, a lot of companies there folding to the rubles for gas stuff. Is that also some sort of revolt of their capitalist class against the globalists? Would you see it like that?
It could be. Here's the problem. This now it starts to get really complicated. Now the web gets really complicated because now you got to factor in geopolitics. Now you got to factor in whether or not they're trying to figure out a way to get what's their priority at this point. They got multiple priorities. They want to consolidate power, in Europe, and then transfer to the WHO, and then from there transfer all the power to the UN. That's their big goal with the central bank digital currencies and mass surveillance and Orwell on steroids and all that and all the rest of it, right? But here's the problem. Think about a situation. Europe cannot be completely destroyed if they want to do this. Their power center is in Europe. So they want to bring Europe low and they want to deindustrialize it a bit and, rebuild it in, I don't know, the hydrogen economy, which is really dumb or whatever it is that they want to do, whatever fart sniffing idiotic idea they come up with while they're drinking Swiss coffee and eating Swiss chocolates over at Davos. But they come up with while the money managers are all in the bar going, what's wrong with these people? Oh, right. Inbreeding. Got it. Okay. Now, so are they breaking with this because they just know that they have to try and salvage something because they've lost the war, all the battles to destroy the US? Because they've lost all the battles to destroy the US. The Democrats are going to get wiped out. The Fed's in control. Wall Street's in control of the Fed. They've got, for the most part, they've got spending under control in Congress, right? So, but the only thing they can get through is some spending bills for Ukraine. They can't get Build Back Better, $6.5 trillion. They got $40 billion in weapons from Ukraine, which is mostly a slush fund for the DNC and a cover up, of all their malfeasance, and maybe the last a little bit of money they get out the door before they're all, shown the pasture, which is where they all belong. Somebody please knock Pelosi's teeth out and throw them in the field so she can go wander, going looking for them, so we don't have to listen to her talk in public anymore. That would be fantastic. So my problem with that, I know I am trying to keep this entertaining at the very least, right?
Yeah.
So I think that the gas for rubles thing is very interesting because it is fueling a weaker euro, right? And a weaker yen and a weaker pound and even a weaker dollar versus the euro ultimately. But again, at the same time, the ruble's not quite a free market yet. They still have to remove capital controls and all the rest of it. But they are doing a bang up job of reminding everybody that we have the Russians, that we have a doom loop to destroy the value of the trading value of the euro, the exchange rate of the euro, right? You got to send us, you got to buy rubles from us at whatever price we come up with. And then we don't take we convert them into rubles, send them into the Russian economy, leave the euros on the outside of it, which we then dump. Most likely we'll dump them on Turkey so that Turkey can get out from underneath their net foreign capital a deficit, which is massive. Which is why Erdogan, by the way, is against Finland and Sweden going into the EU, into NATO, because he's got a line with which to launder Russian oil profits. He's got a scheme to launder Russian oil profits to the Turkish economy. It's brilliant. So I don't know. Like Davos is they're starting to improvise, right, on their plan, and they're really bad at it. And so you're getting a lot of really mixed messages here about what's going on. But gas for rubles is absolutely something that could be accelerating the split. Because before this war started, I said, look, what they really want here is they want a European independent foreign policy from the Americans and the Brits. Well, how do you do that? You force into the open that the Brits and the Americans are the ones fomenting the war with Russia. You make the Europeans look like the victims here. And then the Europeans eventually go, look, we just want to walk away, and we'll have, and we'll militarize for ourselves. We'll break NATO, we'll go or separate, we'll create the EU army, and we'll have our own foreign policy, and we'll break with them over Russia. And I always expected that to happen without there being a full-fledged war. And then Putin invaded because Putin obviously got information which said, no, they're actually in cahoots together and they want to destroy everything and take us over. And that's why he invaded the way he did. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying it. I'm not passing moral judgment on what Putin did here. But that was clearly his strategic move and what he felt was in his strategic advantage. If you watch everything that's been happening since then, it looks like that the people within Davos, that we know to be Davos controlled within the European Union, are trying to resurrect that same end by asking for getting Draghi to go to Biden and ask for a ceasefire, for Scholz to try and talk with Putin. All this, you can see the beginnings of it, while the Brits keep showing up and putting the kibosh on any ceasefire agreements. Europe keeps trying to create a ceasefire environment while the Brits go over and go, no. And Boris Johnson shows up at the last minute and says, no, sorry, Volodymyr, you do that. And we're going to release the pictures of you with the little boys or whatever it is that they've got on them. And I think that's the scenario. And then you have the crazy neocons in Washington who actually think that that the Ukrainians can beat the Russians. And that's just, as far as I'm concerned, that's just crazy talk. But, I don't know. There are people who disagree with me on this, but I just think that's crazy talk. I think the Russians have been fighting this war with one hand tied behind their back. And at some point, they're going to take that other hand off. And they're going to turn a lot of Ukraine into a parking lot. And it's going to be ugly. And it's going to be disgusting. And it's yet another way that Putin keeps saying, oh, by the way, I could be doing worse. Hey, why don't we settle? Why don't we do some peace? Hey, why don't we end this? He's been doing this for 8 years with these people and they don't listen. So he knows where this ends. And I know where this ends. And, at some point, I think what he's trying to do is run the clock out and hope that political turmoil in Europe and the United States and Britain overthrows these people. Mm-hmm. And that lessens and then you play the war of attrition to hope that you can help that the political revolution occurs in the West that keeps that from happening, which is why they keep fending off all the false flag things that the Brits keeps trying to set off.
Yeah, I think they're slow rolling it, and
Yes.
they're winning. So why do they need to really get it over quickly if they are just inflicting so much pain on the euro and the pain on the NATO alliance? Because now with Turkey blocking Finland and Sweden, there seems to be some, angst going on from within NATO. So I think that, yeah, if he's winning, why get it over quickly? Why not drag it out?
Well, I mean, yeah, and this defies military convention, certainly. And I'm not saying that it's the best way to do this. I think there are other ways to have done this. And I think what we could have really hoped for was that they had plan A was really to take Kiev in a show of, shock and awe, and end the concept of the Ukrainian state in 24 hours or 48 or 72 hours. That's what they should have done. And that would put us in a much different place than we're in today. We're in a much more dangerous place today because the Russians didn't do that. And that's fair cop, man. And any pro-Russian commentator that gets angry with me for saying that, sorry, do the math and do the calculus of the responses that you've seen from NATO and the United States since then. Be honest about what their capabilities are and how much money and material and weapons they can bring to bear and what their psychology is. And I got news for you. Like, it's bad, because this thing brings us to DEFCON 1.
Yep. Before
it ends. And then it's up to us to stop that from happening.
Yeah,
so,
sorry to interrupt you there.
No worries. I was like mostly done. Okay.
So with this gas for rubles, that's kind of, I think, one of these dominoes. And then the Donbass looks like it could be getting encircled. The northern Donbass area could be getting encircled right now, and that wrapping up in the next week or two. I just kind of feel like if Europe is losing so badly, it might just fall out of the headlines, just like COVID seemed to fall out of the headlines. What would we be looking at next then if these things just kind of get swept under the rug?
Well, the Democrats are staring at a real wipeout, and I mean, like, complete destruction in November. Every attempt that they have made to create a positive narrative surrounding Joe Biden and surrounding their traditional, issue system has failed. Roe versus Wade has already failed on. I know they're going to try and turn that into a summer of righteous anger by somebody. I'm not sure, but I guess the Elizabeth Warrens in the United States are all going to, I don't know, burn down. I don't know, Levittown or whatever. Maybe I'll just pick a suburb of choice. They're gonna what, burn down Rochester, or pick so like. That's no, that's not going to work. They haven't been able to lever that up. They haven't been able to turn us into rabidly anti-Russians who want to all go sign up for the army and go fight in Ukraine. That has not worked. Everybody's staring at $6 a gallon gasoline and potential food shortages and diesel shortages and this, that, and everything else. And I got news for you. I'm sorry, but politically, no one wants to, after all of this COVID, after all of these lockdowns and all of this disruption to our lives and everything else, all the psychological and physical and emotional damage that's been done by these freaking people, the last thing anybody's going to want to do is going to go through any privation over a bunch of Ukrainian Nazis. Whether you think that that's overblown Russian propaganda or not, it's been effective enough that it's real. And credit the Russians for actually winning that part of the PR war. And they're usually really bad at it, by the way, because they usually tend to deal in facts, and facts are just not usually emotional enough for people. Like, it's just why stop a really good emotional argument with facts? It just doesn't, don't cloud the issue with facts, right? So I think the midterms are a lot. I think they're a very important turning point in the story. And you can see how everyone is positioning for it. And the wild card everybody should be looking at with the Fed pulling back on interest rates. So again, I think the Fed's not just trying to destroy Europe, they're just trying to destroy the coup that exists in Washington, D.C. It's Davos that is the problem. Okay. You have to get rid of their political power. And you do that by destroying the groups that they have under their thumb. And you can clearly see Davos trying to shift their support to the Republicans, to the Mitch McConnell wing, or what I like to call the GOP, the GOP establishment. They're trying to shift to those guys, and they're going to let the Democrats leave the Democrats out to hang, because obviously it's not working. All the money is flowing into the Republicans, onto the GOP side of the ledger. Trump is an important piece of the puzzle, and that he's the one vetting and recruiting the right characters to run for office, for Senate, for the House and whatnot. I know he's probably positioning himself for a 2024 run, but I really wish he wouldn't. I think by 2020, by the time that opens up, I don't think he'll be a factor, but I think that he'll be happy to let the Democrats waste all their money trying to prevent him from becoming, being a candidate on the ballot through all this lawfare about, everybody who was involved in January 6th is an insurrectionist and therefore is invalid under the 14th Amendment, or whatever. Like, that's failed, obviously. So that all those strategies have failed. So they're staring at what they're trying to do now is trying to keep this from being a 100-seat loss in the House, or 75-seat loss in the House. They're trying to keep it to 40 so they can have something to work on. But if they lose 70 and they lose 5 Senate seats, Joe Biden gets impeached, even though the quote unquote majorities aren't there. Because if you don't think that there's another 100 squishy members of Congress and 10 squishy senators in that political environment after that kind of historic wipeout, then you're terminally politically naive. It's not going to be a party line vote, because none of the whips in either of the major parties are going to be able to whip their members in line at that point, because they're all going to be staring at their futures going, my future isn't with Klaus Schwab and George Soros. My future is, unfortunately, with the magatards. I got news for you, Mitch. You're 83 or whatever you are. You're done. Like, you should resign now anyway. Like, that's what should happen. And I think that even if it doesn't go that far after the midterms, what it does do is it sets up post 2024, and for someone to walk in the presidential race in 2024 to end this nonsense and go and run on a ticket of fiscal responsibility, balancing the budget. The Fed's not coming to our rescue. We need to cut spending. We need to cut all of this stuff. We need to reform entitlements. We need to cut $2 trillion out of the budget to pay for the rising interest rates. That's what's going to happen. And it'll all kind of lay itself out for the Fed to then start cutting rates in the middle of 2020, in late 2023, and give that guy the push necessary to get into office.
Yeah. I'd like to steer away so much from politics. I mean, I share a lot of your political views, but let's go into Bitcoin here. So sure. I have been saying recently that, unfortunately, because I come from a ANCAP type background, a gold bug background, I say right now, though, that what's good for the US is actually good for Bitcoin, because most of the Bitcoin, I would say, is held by US citizens or US entities. And there's the biggest share of mining here. Mm-hmm. Venture capital's here. All this stuff is here. And we actually the US has been quite friendly on the grand scheme of things to Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. So what is your take on that statement that what's good for the US right now is good for Bitcoin? And then maybe how would you tease that apart a little bit?
Well, what I would say is I agree. It depends on, what you mean by the US. Like, I think that it just depends on what the implications are. I think you laid it out nicely in your opening there, right? Because those would be the points that I would have made, right? That all the mining is coming in here. All the regulatory situation here isn't the worst we've seen. It's not good, but it's not bad. Gensler's a problem. But at the same time, it's very clear to me that Wall Street, the part of Wall Street that is fighting Davos, likes Bitcoin. Now, do they want to control it? Sure. Do you think Jamie Dimon wants Bitcoin running around to, challenge his dollar? No. But you think the Fed's ever going to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet? Not while I'm, still lucid. But well, okay, maybe before I mean, 65 isn't so ill. So I should still be lucid at 65. I give that about 10 years, by the way, FYI. So I just think that those guys, yeah, I mean, we're starting to see the movement in the regulatory situation. Like the CFTC the other day tried to come out and say, well, yeah, we think Ripple's a currency. Did you see that? Which is setting the stage for the SEC to, do a face-saving thing to allow Ripple out of, because the Ripple lawsuit was a poison pill by Jay Clayton to stop Davos on his way out the door, because Ripple is Davos coin. That's Davos's preferred SWIFT replacement, right? So do the math, and it's pretty clear that you've got forces within the Wall Street that want to create a crypto SWIFT replacement that is under their control, but is absolutely friendly to the proof of work coins and Bitcoin in particular. I think that because they've all got money in this stuff now. They've all got money in mining rigs and all the rest of it. Gensler is actively blocking all the things that would make Bitcoin a real financial asset, i.e. on-chain settled futures or on-chain settled ETFs, as opposed to futures contracts, cash settled ETFs, which only Gensler still has no argument. He just does it. He just says we can't have it. He has no argument for it. So it's clear that, in a post-Gensler, post-Biden dominated environment, a post-Democrat dominated Davos environment here in the US, absolutely. If everything I'm talking about comes to pass, Bitcoin is going to do very well here in the United States. It'll still be under control though. Okay, don't kid yourself. The Wild West days of Bitcoin not being controlled by Wall Street having, some control over the marginal flow through paper futures and paper Bitcoins, dudes, that cat's out of the bag. Unless something radically different changes, in the Bitcoin community to stop that cat's out of the bag. The good news is, well, we have good competitors out there who can take on the mantle that don't have that and can help Bitcoin survive that kind of pressure. I honestly see other proof of work style coins that have now significant histories, that have blockchains are 7, 8, 9 years old, that have the ability now to draw that type of capital in and support Bitcoin in its fight to take out the central banks. I think they're important strategically. That's why I'm not a Bitcoin maxi, guys, but you guys have heard that rant before. So I'm literally thinking purely strategically here in so many different ways. I'm happy to be wrong about being a Bitcoin maxi, all these things, but I think you're right in that the United States, the powers, the money guys in the United States understand that Bitcoin is here to stay, is an opportunity for them to sell products and keep the flow of money to them that they don't currently have under a zero bound interest rate environment with the Fed, and the end, and we're staring at the end of kind of central bank dominated debt-based currency. That's over. Demand side economics is done. Keynesianism is going to be destroyed. Marxism is going to be destroyed. All of this stuff is going to be destroyed over the course of the next 10 to 15 years. Okay, finally. And we're going to see the emergence of a different type of monetary system, which should be fairer and more inclusive and all the rest of it from our definitions, not theirs. And yeah, so I'm seeing that now. The foundations of that are being laid right now. And so you're hoping that I'm right about all this stuff, because if I'm right, all of this will happen. Then all of this will happen. And if I'm wrong, it's going to be ugly and it's going to be awful. And your children are going to be chattel slavery. And it's going to be just awful. That's serious. I mean, that's I hope I'm right. I really do.
Well, I'm less less bearish on that. My take on how the like big wheel of time turns is that, yeah, you'll have some suffering maybe in the short term, but usually we progress, and usually we are, you know, maybe not every generation is better than the last, but if you go out 4 or 5 generations, it's better than the last. So
of course.
Now I have a question about Europe and the euro in regards to Bitcoin. So in your narrative or your theory of what's going on, would a collapse in the euro, would that stimulate flight into not just US denominated assets, but Bitcoin as well?
Absolutely.
Because we saw when capital flight was big in China 5 years ago, it was real. Bitcoin was a big vector for Bitcoin. So do you see the
Europe,
same?
by the way.
Yeah. So
If you remember during 2017, summer 2017, most of the Bitcoin flow, because people were charting. I remember watching the very early apps of charting the Bitcoin flow by IP address, and it was all coming out of Europe. Because the capital controls were going on, because there was a sovereign debt crisis in Greece in 2015, which hung over into 2016, 2017. Like Europe was a mess in 2017. So absolutely. Like I just want you to prep. I have a downside target on the euro of roughly 70 cents. Okay. Now, roughly 70 cents on the euro is World War III, unfortunately. Okay. But that's my rough target. And I think that that's a reasonable one. I hope it only gets to 85. In that scenario, Bitcoin's going to do just fine. Okay. Because the Europeans are going to turn as disgustingly authoritarian as you could possibly imagine. But there are ways around that. Everybody finds ways around it. Black markets are the way of the world. And, you know, it is what it is. And it's good to go through these flushes that we've seen recently. Like, it is good for these things to be, for things like Terra Luna to implode. I wonder about something like Terra in the first place, and wonder if it wasn't a Davos creation in order to, you know, do the Straussian two-step. Stable coins are bad. Oh, look, a stable coin blew up. We need stable coin regulation. Like, what was that, $1 billion? Like, give me a break. I think people print that shit for lunch. Like, I look at this stuff and I'm like, why would anybody think anything other than that? Like, that should be your first base case when you look at something like this. I really, you know, that's why I get asked all the time by patrons and people like, what do you think of this coin? I'm like, I have no idea. I haven't even heard of it. Like, I don't know. I'm not watching the crypto markets from that perspective. I just can't, because most of it, if I were to spend my time dealing with that, I'd be like, oh, there's a vector for me. Maybe I should have seen Luna for what it was immediately. But I just think that things like this are good for the system, because we have to go through stuff like this. It's a young industry. Lots of money, you know, attracts scammers. Scammers are everywhere. Like, it's normal. This is stuff going back, 10 years with Junseth, right? It's like, it's nothing new, right? The numbers are just bigger today. That's all it is. But yeah, people are crying in their beer that Bitcoin's only 30,000. And I remind everybody that I put it in my portfolio for my newsletter during the depths of the bear market, in like early 2019, 2020 at $8,800 a coin. The breakout the breakout level of the beginning of the bull market was at 14,000. So even if you bought the quarterly breakout in November of 2020, right, that week when it broke above 14 grand, even if you just bought the breakout, like I told all my patrons to do, you've still doubled your money in a year and a half. Like, and you're crying. You've doubled your money in a year and a half, and you're crying. Like, really, please do cry me a river, because you're supposed to be looking for 8% annually. You just got 65. Please have a little perspective on this. So that's the thing, we have to keep that in mind. Yeah, it was 67 and now it's 30. Shut up, Peter Schiff. A year and a half ago, gold was 2,100, and and now it's 1820, right? Pete, like, give me a break, dude. Like, just
yeah. Oh yeah. So Davos, they don't obviously hate hate Bitcoin, but they don't like the stable coins either. They're going more for a CBDC route. So what do you see is the ECB eventually going to have to try to abandon the euro and go for a CBDC euro? What do you see going there?
Yeah, no, what I see is very clear. I think it's not hard. I'm not saying anything you haven't heard if you listen to Martin Armstrong or anybody else. I agree with all those people, which is that, look, it's very simple. They've made their plan very obvious. They've told you what it's going to be. They want to. George Soros has made this abundantly clear. They need to crash the European economy to a greater or lesser extent, make everybody desperate, and then say we will alleviate all your debt. We will write it all down. We will issue perpetual debt at, I don't know, 50 basis points or whatever that way, but you're never getting paid back. We'll put you on a, $200 a year drip feed or whatever it is, and 0.5% drip feed. And there you go. And then we're moving you all to the digital euro. And here's your UBI bucks. And, because we all think you're useless eaters and all you do is watch porn and play video games, because that's all you're capable of in this new brave new world that we've built, because we don't need you for anything else. And unfortunately, we have to feed you because we're not allowed to kill you. That's the way they think.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of Davos,
I'm not even being, I hate to say, when I put it like that bluntly, it sounds horrible. And it sounds like I'm doing stand-up, right? But it's not, this is what they say.
Right. Well, these evil guys, they're meeting next week in Davos. Do you expect any big news items out of Davos next week? And also, I would like you to comment here as we are wrapping up, getting close to the end here. What about have you seen the headlines of the 44 central bankers that are meeting in El Salvador and talking to the president of El Salvador about Bitcoin and all this stuff? So can you I think it's interesting, the timing. Davos is next week. This El Salvador thing is this week. Can you maybe connect some dots on that?
Sure. I mean, I saw the thing. I have the best. I say this all the time, and I'm going to shout out now. I have the best patrons in the world. I run a private Slack server community for them, so we chat all day long. And I'm just in constant contact with the flow of information around the world from 40 or 50 of my hardcore patrons who are just in there all day long throwing information up. So I saw the headline that Bukele is, convening the Davos of Bitcoin, which I just laughed my ass off at, because I'm like, oh, so nice to see your meme now, like a 44 heads of state using my meme. It just blows my mind, right? And it's so good to see. And I think that guy is absolutely, he's really cool. I think it's great. If you remember, just a note, remember a couple of weeks ago how they were talking about how El Salvador was in trouble financially because Bitcoin had dropped so far? You don't think that they didn't run an operation on Bitcoin for this purpose of trying to bankrupt the El Salvador because they tried to get off the reservation? Like the Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, everybody should read. It's the Bible of the 21st century. Like, if you don't know how this stuff works, like, then you can't properly assess the news. So watching that occur, watching El Salvador stand up, you're seeing the same kind of thing going, well, Michael Saylor over MicroStrategies is going to get a margin call if it drops below 28 grand. No, he's going to have to put some more money in. Like, he can put money, he can go do a cash call to his investors. He's got working capital. They can go down to Bitcoin can go down to $2,800. That's not going to $2,800. Like, there won't be a coin to be had at $2,800. So I'm a buyer at $2,800. I mean, come on, I'm kidding. So I think it's fantastic that they're doing that. And I think that Bukele is like, he's thumbing his nose at Davos by saying, we're going to have the Davos of Bitcoin a week before your big thing where you're all talking about how you're going to have the WHO, take over the world and abrogate all our sovereign governments. But the WHO treaty that's going to get signed next week, this thing is actually the scary one that's on the table, because now the WHO will be able to turn. That's what they want, is to be able to usurp your government's constitutions in order to enact global health policy. And they're going to turn that over to the UN as the enforcement arm. That's the means by which they're going to do this. They're moving forward with their plans. even though their plans are failing, they're going forward with it anyway. This is what I've been warning people about for 2 years. Like, these people are not going to be deterred. They've been building this idea in their head since the Club of Rome first met in 1850, for Christ's sake. They've got a plan. They're going to execute it. And, no pesky Hungarian voters who refuse to get rid of Viktor Orban are going to stop them from doing so, or whatever it is, or American voters voting for Trump, or, people wanting to buy, wanting to heat their homes and being willing to pay for, Russian gas with rubles as opposed to euros. None of these things are going to deter them. They will just improvise as best they can to get everything back on the path. As we stray off the path, they improvise a little bit to push everybody back on the path. I'm not saying that they're going to reach their path, the end of their path, the end of their goal. I don't think they're going to. And I think that that's the most dangerous situation of all, which is that they unleash as much, as much chaos as possible as these two forces, meet and explode. I think that's what the rest of the decade looks like to me. I mean, literally. So I don't have any good news for you other than, that's what it looks like. On the other side of it, it's going to look fine, but it's going to be ugly between now and then. So,
All righty. I wanted to open it up to questions here real quick from the live stream crew. Do you guys have any questions here for Tom?
Yeah, I've got one real quick. So Tom, this has been, I always love hearing your rant. It's great. So I guess a lot of Bitcoiners and probably your community and a couple other communities, I'd say more niche communities, have been calling out the WEF, the IMF, all these different organizations. I guess, when does the broader, or normies as Bitcoiners refer, when do they wake up? We're obviously seeing record level inflation, gas prices, housing, and all that. When they're saying you need to eat bugs, you need to use less energy, when do the normie people say, screw you guys, up yours? Like,
yeah,
we're not
screw
doing
you guys,
that.
I'm going home, right?
Yeah.
Like the Cartman thing. Screw you guys, I'm going home. I think it's what's that?
I said, I always knew I liked you for some reason, but it was the fact that you can just quote South Park. That was all. Continue, please.
Continue with the rant now.
So rant back on. No problem. I think I think the midterms are going to be your moment, by the way. FYI, Q, for years as my avatar on the internet, before I ever put my face on the internet, if you guys remember back in the early days of the internet, South Park published the make your own South Park character. Well, all of my friends and we all made self-portraits. I won. I got taken out to dinner. I used that for years. And one of these days, ask me, Ansel, I'll send you a copy of it. It's hilarious, by the way. But yeah, it's me with an AK-47 and a shirt that says bastard. It's just the bags under my eyes. It's hilarious.
Oh, maybe we'll put it on the cover image for this standalone video.
Fair enough, dude. Please do. So
Ansel, like, if you get that picture, send it, because that is absolutely happening.
All right, no worries. I
want to throw a question at
sure.
both of you, because Ansel, like, thank you for the treat of Bitcoin and markets. I got to wake up to this morning and read an extra edition of it. But last week you kind of brought up something throughout this conversation, Tom. I kind of feel like you're taking a different stance on this.
Sure.
But I'm curious, just sort of short-term projections based on the way the market is performing today. It looks like we'll get a follow-through day, so we could be out of this bear market in a sense. I'm curious what your short-term horizon looks like. I know you've marked, you marked the midterms as sort of this moment where you could potentially see decoupling, but what does summer 2022 look like?
Okay, this is very simple, guys. Go put up a monthly chart of Bitcoin. I tend to use investing.com's index for all of my cryptos because it's the best kind of aggregate you can get of all the, I don't know what their heuristic is or what their algorithm is, but it's going to be reasonably decent. Go look at a monthly chart. Go look at the lows from last summer. If we closed May below the 29,000 area, we're going to 20. That's what I'm telling everybody. No argument. If they can break down on a monthly closing basis, 20,000, 29,000, we're going to go back to 20. And then we'll bounce off it. And we'll bounce off at 20, whether or not that becomes like an emotional low or a spike low, or we actually go down there and stay there. Look, we could have a liquidity spasm general market this summer. Okay. The dollar is rising quickly. Okay. Everybody right now, we're in a fear mode. Everybody's selling everything to get the cash. Okay. So everything is trading in a dollar liquidity situation. And the world is still biblically short dollars. It's very important to understand that. There's still $70 trillion worth of dollar denominated debt out there that has to be serviced. Okay. And it's now being serviced at higher rates than it was before. The cost of getting those dollars is higher than it's been in a while. And as that reverses, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying just watch. It's right. It's good right now, especially the monthly chart right now is really, really telling, because I look at the monthly chart and I'll tell you what I see. I see it high into 68,000 earlier this year, or at the end of last year, and then a 3-bar downtrend, which doesn't throw a technical reversal signal because it doesn't close below that last up bar in, when is that? October, right? We come into January, November, January, we finally get a reversal signal. We get a 2-bar uptrend, which cannot break the January high. And that failure to break the January high in March set up the wipeout that we have now. This is exactly what I said to Ansel earlier in the day. They had a successful defense of 45 grand, which you could see as clear as day on the weekly chart. And had we broken above, and Bitcoin broken above that, shorts would have started to cover. We'd have flipped and gone long. We'd have gone back to 51. And we'd have stabilized between 51 and 39 on the downside. We didn't do that. Now we went down to 33. 33 didn't hold. Now 29's got to hold. If 29 doesn't hold, look at the monthly chart. Like we're looking at a 2-bar reversal of that failed, of that dead cat, what effectively is a dead cat bounce from February and March. So technically, I look at the market. It's a brutal downtrend right now. But I got news for you: the Dow doesn't look any better. The euro, have you looked at the monthly chart of the euro?
It's monthly charts. When you guys were talking, I was literally just looking at monthly charts. And I was like, there is nothing, absolutely nothing that really looks like you have an opportunity here. And then you zoom into a daily chart, you see some opportunities, and then you have to remind yourself, oh, no, always not in the monthly chart. Always think about things. It's one thing I can teach anybody about investing, because I've done this so wrong. And I'm only speaking from many years of experience of doing this the wrong way. You have to match your time frame that you're looking at with the time horizon of your investment. So do not look at daily charts if you are a hodler. You should be looking at monthly, quarterly, and annual charts. Period. Nothing more. Your monthly charts are your momentum charts. They're your day trading charts. Your quarterly charts are the ones you should really be focusing on to see where the thing is going. And then you get confirmatory signals and within the annual chart. Right now, if you want to see the most powerful chart in the world right now, go construct yourself an annual chart, which will be hard to find because most places will give you a monthly breakdown. Go build a 50-year chart, annual chart of the US 10-year bond. And tell me what you say, because I know what I see. Okay. I see something that most people who are alive today have never seen, which is a bear market in US Treasury debt. We have bond traders in this world who are approaching Social Security, who have never traded a bear market in US Treasury securities. Do you think that imprinting is affecting the way they look at the world? I remember hearing that from, I don't know, someone, I can't remember who, maybe it was Harry Dent or something, like 20 years ago, he was talking about this. Like, there's not a bond trader under the age of 50. I've been saying the same thing for this long now. Now I gotta say, there isn't a bond trader under the age of 70 who's ever lived through a bear market in US Treasury debt. And yet, if we break and hold 3% or so, even 2.7%, but let's just call it 3% on the 10-year to end June, the end of the quarter, Katie bar the door, dude, we're going to 7%. There's tomorrow, but we're going there. We're going to see a rise in U.S. interest rates that we haven't seen in since the 1970s, and that's a loss of confidence. And when the loss of confidence happens, that's when safe haven assets shine. But right now, everybody who's in charge, is in power, is trying to tell you, abandon all hope, ye who enter safe havens. So they're beating on Bitcoin, they're beating on gold, they're beating on silver, they're beating on everything. They're beating on all of it. Why? To tell you, don't leave. Don't get out. You don't have anywhere to go.
Okay, they're like the robots at the end of THX 1138. Don't leave. You have nowhere else to go. And he climbs up and out and walks out of the cave, right at the end of the movie. Same. That's metaphorically what's going on here. Like this is all a big psyop in that respect. And so once you see the way they operate, once you see the way the world operates, you can't unsee it. And it's like you can see it all across all of these charts. But big charts, annual, quarterly, monthly, they aggregate so much human behavior that they give you a really clear picture as to what's going on. Daily charts are noisy, hourly charts noisy, even weekly charts are kind of noisy. So, okay. That's hard won knowledge. That's like 25 years of doing this crap. And I finally am getting good at it. And I still make mistakes all the time.
I'm obviously less short-term bearish. I do see probably 95% of the things that you're seeing out there, but I think that all that would be needed for a monster rally from oversold conditions, both in Bitcoin and in stocks and stuff, would be one headline from Powell. Mm-hmm. One dovish, sure. even a 2-week press where they say, oh, maybe we've overdone it, and stocks would rally. Bitcoin would rally.
But they can't do that at this point, because if they do that, then they torch what's left of their credibility. The Fed's in a credibility game right now, and they know it. When the Fed mentions the fact that they don't think that their credibility has been damaged by all of this, their credibility has been damaged by all of this. Like nothing is real until it's been denied officially. Like, and I don't disagree with you, Ansel. Like, yes, if the Fed were to do that, absolutely, there'd be a big rally. I just don't think that that's what's going to come. If it does come, it's not going to come until after at least one more rate hike. I think what you may see is at the June rate hike, at the June meeting, that as opposed where everybody is now talking about 75 basis points, and the Fed has already ruled out 75 basis points on a meeting to meeting basis, that they go 50 and hold to their guns and say, no, really, we're not interested in doing 75. That may be enough to make everybody, I think, to lessen everybody's anxiety. The real issue here is that we just had, it's like you asked earlier when the normies going to wake up. Chris asked earlier, when are the normies going to wake up? Well, we got to get the financial normies to wake up. They still think that the Fed is going to raise a couple of times and then stop. And I'm like, no, they're going to go. Okay, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's fine. If I'm wrong, I'll own it and I'll go, okay, well, then I was wrong. But if I am right, then every time the Fed doesn't come to their rescue, another 10, 15, 20% of the financial normies have to then let go of their old illusions. Think of it this way. The Fed has a credibility problem. The Fed has to now enter a bull market. How do you enter a bull market? Bull markets always rise or climb a wall of worry. I'm not going to speak metaphorically speaking. Why do bull markets climb a wall of worry? Because everybody was bearish. Everybody who's bearish is short, and they don't want to believe that their thesis is wrong. And every time we move through another layer of resistance, we flip yet another small portion of the population from bearish to bullish. And every time you overcome another technical hurdle. That's why breaking highs and breaking lows are so very important, because they represent emotional extremes in the market. The supply of buyers overwhelming the supply of sellers, the supply of sellers overwhelming the supply of buyers. So think of it this way. The Fed now has to climb a wall of worry in everybody's confidence of them. And they're going to continue doing so. And every time they do so, they will flip another portion of the investment community from bearish on the, bullish on the Fed's accommodative nature to bearish. And that will change their investing habits. That will change money flow. That will change. I think we're at the beginning of a potential bear market in U.S. Treasury debt. And everybody wants to talk about when the Fed's going to go back to the zero bound. As far as I'm concerned, that's like everybody saying, Bitcoin 225. No, really, it's tomorrow. Same thing. Yeah. And no one wants to think of, the opposite, which it could go back to 30.
Well, Tom, it's been a wide-ranging show and a very entertaining and fun show. Always great to have you on. Do you have any final words, or do you want to tell the folks where they can get onto your website and follow you on Twitter?
Sure. You can follow me on Twitter at TFL1728, where I am hopefully entertaining, but usually just a jackass. I'm just Mr. Snark. And on the website is tomluongo.me or goldgoatsandguns.com. Either one will get you there. And then from there, you can branch off into, whatever else you want to listen to, watch, support, however you want to do it.
Great. Everybody, I'm Ansel Lindner. You can follow me at Ansel Lindner on Twitter and go to bitcoinandmarkets.com and sign up for my free weekly newsletter. Q, everybody, back to you guys.
We're going to go to a quick commercial break. So stick around, guys. What's up? We're back. Honestly, Pete, just keep going.
All right, let's do this. News and notes. One thing that I found interesting that just came across my desk is that the United States government posted a fact sheet titled "Guidance on the Democratic People's Republic of North Korea Information Technology Workers," and it is an advisory that basically warns people how to guard, and I'm quoting, guard against the inadvertent recruitment, hiring, and facilitation of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, aka North Korea, information technology workers. It's saying that they are trying, it poses many risks. They're being sent out into the world to steal intellectual property, data, and funds, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, the interesting thing about this, there's a bunch of things that are like, here's how you, like, if X, Y, and Z, you may have hired a North Korean IT worker. And one of them is if they request payment in cryptocurrency, you may have hired a North Korean IT worker. If they try to avoid systems that require verification of banking information corresponding to other identifying documents, basically, if you try to avoid KYC because you believe that privacy is a human right, you may be a North Korean IT worker. I just thought that was fascinating.
So is Matt Odell a North Korean worker, is what you're saying?
I mean, I guess I am too. I've never been to North Korea. I don't know anyone from North Korea, but apparently, actually, I know Yeonmi Park. So anyway, I think it's fascinating that requesting privacy is now something that apparently is a potential flag for matching the criteria for being a bad person.
So you're either a Russian bot or a North Korean IT person. So they just keep adding to this list as well, which is pretty funny.
Like,
that's scary.
Are you surprised though? Because in all honesty, it kind of falls in line with this idea of, well, if you don't agree with our perspective, you are there for a bad guy in this like black and white universe that we've been like programmed to believe is the way the world works, when like, fine, this may be misconstrued and I may be misquoted and probably canceled one day, but like there are people in North Korea that genuinely need Bitcoin technology. They need resources, but they're not afforded or given to them because the country itself and its leadership are put under sanctions. And as a result, like those citizens that need help can't get it. So it goes back to this idea of, well, you have one or two criteria that fit the bad guy criteria, so therefore you're clumped up into a bad guy. I think it's very telling, and we should be highlighting these type of things as they come up, because this is the exact same thing, in my opinion, that happened up in Canada, where you essentially saw a group of people that the government didn't agree with, who did or said things that the government was like, actually, no, we don't like that. So therefore, we're going to shut down your bank account. Like how quickly does that happen here? I think is just something for people to think about.
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe
sure.
I'm exaggerating things.
No. I mean, I think this to me, as you say, is just another note in a long line of if you try to seek privacy, if you try to free yourself from financial apartheid, you are potentially an enemy. So, but don't let that discourage you. Everyone should continue to invest in these systems, because it's one of the most important ways to fight back.
And look,
and by invest, I don't mean buy Bitcoin. I mean like invest in the understanding and the knowledge and other people who are trying to do this. We were talking about communities earlier. We all, the three of us and everyone that's at BTC Inc., like we're 100% on board with the mission of bringing this life-saving technology, Bitcoin, to as many people per unit time as we possibly can, because we all believe that it is the most important thing. And it's fucking important.
thank you for letting me finish chewing and swallowing my food. Chris,
I got you.
what are your thoughts here?
I think you guys hit the nail on the head here. I think you
Head on the nail. Come on, you know better.
No, it's I think they're trying to slowly subvert you, or I don't know, just they're trying to control it is basically what it comes down. Power control, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I think that Tom hit on it earlier too in FedWatch. They're going to do everything in their power to be more authoritarian in order to retain power, retain control. And, you got to go after KYC. You got to go after cryptocurrency, but Bitcoin in general. I agree with Svetsky's idea, or Alex Svetsky's idea, that like crypto is an attack on Bitcoin. And I agree. I think they are going to try and use or prop up another cryptocurrency and say it's better, it's safer, it's cheaper, it's less environmentally damaging, it doesn't harm X, Y, and Z people. It's, only racist or bigots use Bitcoin. If you want to be sustainable, you use this one. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on that. Q looks like he's deep in eating, so I don't know if P wants to add anything more.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, again, none of this should surprise us. There are attacks on Bitcoin are only one aspect of the government and centralized systems, of which there are more today than ever before, trying to put us all into a tiny box and control what we think and what we do, so that people can more effectively line their pockets and control the resources that are available to them. So, another example, ICE just, there was a report that came out recently that ICE has been surveilling 75% of United States citizens, like in relation to, that's not even illegal immigrants in the United States. 75% of United States citizens. That's fucking crazy. Like that's so far outside the remit. It doesn't even make sense. But there are so many systems that are designed to erode your privacy because, again, it's just the direction we're headed. And so it's more and more and more important that each of us take accountability for protecting one's information, becoming sovereign, and really taking accountability for the fact that the government hates you and wants to kill you.
All I'm saying is I think it's really adorable when all you white people, obviously not UP, but when all you white people get upset about the fact that the US government surveils or watches over you. Like, yeah, welcome to the club I've been in for over 20 years, guys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can see this on camera, but I would like totally not even realizing what I was doing. I've been like waving this like little tiny knife around. It's a fishing knife. gesticulating as I'm talking.
Just don't cut yourself.
Very
But
fun.
Chris, as our resident white person on the show, what are your thoughts on now joining the brown community and being under surveillance by the U.S. government?
I liked it better when they were doing it, but they didn't tell me. I guess that's what I liked the best. It's such
so ignorance is bliss. Okay, I'm gonna remember that. I'm gonna remember the ignorance is bliss argument in our next discussion.
No, all joking aside, I mean, it sucks, and I can relate now, I guess. And I think P, you made a great point with ICE. For the longest time, like, the border, Trump, Biden, like Mexico, whatever. And now it's like, they were doing a lot more than just being whatever side, if you think they should bring immigrants in or not. They're doing a lot more extracurricular activities than just trying to handle immigration on our borders, which is pretty crazy, to be honest. I mean, that's the thing, is that like, three of the four of you are going to go to the computers and look at, screens to see what people are doing. But one of you is going to have to go out there and deal with all the immigrants trying to come across the border. Like, how does that go down? Do they have like large server farms? Like, I just want to know the logistics. Like, if you're going to lie to me and say it, like, now that we know, like, what's going on? Like, where's behind the cloth kind of deal?
I don't know, like, full stop how this transaction works, but like, you guys are familiar with Peter Thiel's company, Palantir, correct?
Oh, yes. The company that's named for the evil black orb that can see everyone and tries to steal people's souls in Lord of the Rings. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Palantir.
Like, thank you. Like, only an evil genius or mad scientist would literally go out of their way to name their company something that is used for dark arts or dark magic. Besides the point, Lord Voldemort, Peter Thiel created this company, Palantir, and their biggest client is the US government. They're a data analytics firm, but one of sort of the subsidiary of the US government is our clients is ICE. And they literally comb through all of this data on behalf of ICE to help them figure out when or where certain raids can be most lucrative is the wrong word, because it's not like financial incentive, but like lucrative in the sense that like you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Hey, we'll use this data and help you find sort of, this is the location to get the maximum amount. I don't fucking know.
The metric,
it's absurd.
No, there's a lot of really specific metrics they use. Sorry if you can hear the dog barking in the background. And but the most interesting one for me is the number of orphans that can be created per unit time. That's one of the major ICE metrics.
I hate you that you made that joke because it's so valid. I'd be doing a disservice to, I don't know, the good in me. Everyone should go check out this movie called The Infiltrators that I helped put together in my past life. It's literally a hybrid documentary where a group of illegal immigrant student activists, one boy and one girl, intentionally got detained by ICE, go into a detention center and try to help people who were detained by ICE to get out. It premiered at Sundance now almost 3 years ago. Has since like won a ton of awards. The subjects of this documentary actually like had their cases overturned, and they used footage from the documentary portions like in the court cases for them. So really powerful stuff. Like, the main point of this and why I bring it up though, this issue at the border is not a Trump issue. It's not a Biden issue. It's not an Obama issue. It's literally all of our fucking politicians did this to us and did this to these people. And just, I will never not say this, but like, to rip kids apart from their parents in the way that we in this country have done it is deplorable. And we do need to kind of like say fuck you to the politicians who tell us that they're doing anything right when they go to bed at night knowing that they've done this to people. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, all parties are at fault. That's my mini rant. I'm sorry, had to be said.
I think I'll add to that. I think it's very interesting, and it's very much like a pendulum in terms of the government and what they do in overreach. Like, let's just say the Democrats are more in office right now. That's just a fact in the United States, at least, or the Liberal Party. But then if they do very authoritarian things, the response that the right says, even though the right says right now, rah, rah, we're more freedom, it's not going to be like, oh, we're going to do things to roll this back. They're just going to use it on their opponents. So you just keep getting a worse and worse version of the state, regardless of which party's in office. I think that just kind of ties it into exactly what Q said.
I'm going to try to find the name of this book, but I read it back in like 2015, 2016. There was more like a cautionary tale of like what could possibly happen if Donald Trump gets elected. And it brought up this idea of the US historically, on a political history that is not, it's not the first time that you see someone from a party with an extremist idea come into power, or have that extremist idea start to become sort of pop culture, if you will, or just the norm, no, like the normal conversation and dialogue that you're having. And historically speaking, each time, like an example they gave in the book was Abraham Lincoln was that type of a political leader. And what resulted is you have now one side of the spectrum has gone to the extreme. So as a result, the other side of the spectrum has to go and find an extreme to counteract that point. And historically speaking, we have done this so many damn, like all the way back to, I believe it was John Adams, who was like the second president of the United States, who like very loudly and famously like wanted to get back into bed with Great Britain. And then all of a sudden, like half the country's like, whoa, wait, time out. Like, fuck Great Britain. But then the other half of the country's like, guys, we can't operate, we can't grow because this is the largest economy in the world. And we need to like collaborate with them in order for our country to operate. Otherwise, they'll just fucking tear us down again in like 5 or 10 years. I'm spacing on my US history of like which party, if that was the Federalist or the original Republican Party. But that just like these type of extremists have continued to spread our country out wider and wider. And like, that's why you're having these conversations that we're having now, where you're seeing like these very extreme ideas become normalized. And then we'll only continue to move the goalposts further and further. I need to find the name of this fucking book.
So another thing that I thought was super interesting that came out earlier today is that the University of Cambridge released a new updated report on Bitcoin mining titled Bitcoin Mining, an Unsurprising Resurgence. And it is fascinating. This was new mining map data spanning the period from September 2021 to January 2022 included shows the US has remained at the forefront of Bitcoin mining and extended its leading position to 37.84% of all hash rate. Interesting. Following a sudden uptick in covert mining operations after the June 2021 government mandated ban on mining in China, it has reemerged as a major mining hub. The overall numbers are the US has 37.84% of the hash rate. China has 21.11% of the hash rate. Kazakhstan has about 13%. Canada has about 6.48%. And Russia has 4.66%. Super interesting. They also talk about they say most notably, however, China's apparent comeback following the government ban in 2021, reported hash rate plummeted, then came back up. It surged back to 30.47 exahash in September 2021, instantly catapulting China to second place globally in terms of installed mining capacity, 22.29% of total market. This strongly suggests that significant underground mining activity has formed in the country, which empirically confirms what industry insiders have long been assuming. Access to off-grid electricity and geographically scattered small-scale operations are among the major means used by underground miners to hide their operations from authorities and circumvent the ban. One of the things that I think is, doesn't get talked about a lot is the importance of geographically decentralized miners. So it's, I am a little, I hope that the US's current dominance fades, and I really hope that other countries start taking back some of that hash rate, because if we have too much of the hash rate in the United States, then it presents potentially in the future a problem in terms of legislation, United States government, things like that. So
yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I know Shinobi harps on this a lot. He's like, trading one demon for another, and he was referring to China banning it versus the US adopting a lot of those miners, is not a good thing. So I think it would be interesting if, I mean, we're already kind of seeing it. Like if New York goes the route we think they're going to go, if California potentially goes the route we think they're going to go, if maybe other states go the same route of like, hey, we're not allowing Bitcoin mining, whether we restrict it in types of the energy you can or cannot use. I think it's yeah, it's good. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, it might decentralize from the United States alone. Like, I guess that means it could centralize in spots like Florida or Texas, let's just say, but it would be interesting to see if they go to somewhere else like Mexico or South America or something like that.
Just really briefly, because otherwise we fully clickbaited you. Forbes wrote an article about MicroStrategy. It honestly was just a bunch of facts, in my opinion. One thing that I do want to point out was I think they took a little too many liberties when they calculated the actual book value of their Bitcoins by saying that all of the debt they issued to then go and buy this asset is a net negative. There's a better way to calculate that. You can ratio out based on how much leverage they took versus how much they actually bought with said leverage. So I don't really buy that calculation. But other than that, the article itself was really just like articulating out a bunch of numbers and really updating them based on current Bitcoin prices and current holdings. I didn't really feel like it was a move the needle type of article unless either of you guys caught something that I didn't.
Nope.
Cool.
Not on my end.
I'm going to make the judgment call to call it now because I got to go.
Let's do it.
Let's wrap things up. And as always, use promo code FOMO, get 10% off of everything in the Bitcoin Magazine store, including the latest issues of the Bitcoin Magazine. The Moon Mag is available. It's somewhere on my coffee table back there. And all the conference swag is still available for a limited time. Also, the tickets for Bitcoin 2023 are available. Ticket prices are going up on Friday. I totally thought today was Wednesday earlier, and I was saying 2 days, but it's on Friday. Ticket prices will go up. We're going to be joined tomorrow by none other than George Mikhaila. How do I say his last name?
Mikhail.
Damn it. We're going to be joined by George, who's the head of marketing for the Bitcoin conference, as well as just like, I don't know, a Bitcoin mortgage savant. So you're not going to want to miss that conversation. P, any final thoughts or words?
Hold your own keys, embrace technologies that allow you to maintain your privacy, and invest in your own education. That is the most important thing that you can throw your time and effort into besides Bitcoin. Stay sovereign, my friends.
Stay humble, stack sats. I'm out.
Peace.